You're listening to a Countout Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Ballot, the show. The conversation begins or ends, I guess, for this 2025 season. That's right. The results are in. The ballot, the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame ballot has been finalized. The results are out, and we have a whole new class of 2025 going into the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame. I'm very excited to discuss this show. I think there's a lot of stuff to talk about here, obviously, with the inductees, but just how the vote shook out. And obviously, the very end of the episode, we'll talk about basically, what this 2026 season of this podcast, The Ballot, will be, along with all the returning votes and newbies and all that stuff. But we'll get to that later. First off, I'm very excited to have two returning guests, past and future guests, on to The Ballot to discuss the results with me. First up, I'll throw it over to one half of the Good, the Bad, the Hungy podcast, Fred Morlan. Fred, thank you so much for coming back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me back. Two guests, one vote. Hope everyone's doing well. Excited to discuss the results of this year's voting.
And also joining us today, returning in this time for a broader conversation, not just the worst person on the ballot conversation, resident Kane voter, Adam Berger. Adam, how are you doing today?
Thank you for having me. I am, I guess, the devil's favorite advocate in terms of Kane being on the ballot next year.
I was going to do a Kane bit, and then I just remembered after I said that what I wanted to say was it's got to be Adam. That was what I was trying to do there, and I completely botched it. So apologies to you, Adam.
That's all right. You just have to have me around on next year to talk about Kane and maybe some other of the wonderful new candidates we have. But we have this year's results to discuss first.
Yes, the difference between the brand new people to the ballot and the returnees are fascinating, to say the least. But yes, the results are in. Very exciting day yesterday. I was fully distracted at work the entire time. Luckily, my work was right here, right next to me on my other computer here. But nonetheless, I was completely distracted because we have a whole new class for 2025. The results are in, and here is the class of 2025. We have from the rest of the world region, Spiros Arion making it in. I should probably pull up their percentages while I'm thinking about it. Look at me. I say I'm all prepared, and then I'm not prepared at all. Spiros Arion, he gets in. He dodges, I guess, to a certain degree, the 1550 rule by getting 78% of the vote in the rest of the world. So he absolutely crushes it. In non-wrestlers, Bobby Bruns gets in with 62.7% of the vote. Obviously representing the Japan region as well. In modern US and Canada, 3 people went in. Punk and Cody, who were the top leaders last year, 65.5% for Punk, 64.4% for Cody Rhodes. And then coming onto the ballot, returning to the ballot this year after his passing, 64.1%. Sabu jumps back onto the ballot and just crushes it, slam dunks it, destroys it much like a table. And just immediately gets in. So congrats to Sabu. In Mexico, 75.2% Gran Hamada gets in, along with 74.8% Dorel Dixon. Love to see Dorel Dixon getting in, especially as someone who is up there in age, but obviously still alive with us. It's nice to see that he can. And I know Roy Lucier has talked about it a lot. He's very excited to give Dorel the news, which I imagine at this point he has. And that's it. No one. Well.
He posted about it on Twitter.
He posted it on Twitter, but I think in the post on Twitter, he hasn't talked to Dorel yet. So I don't know if he has. I'm sure he'll post that. That's everyone. ... Kind of. Japan, no one went in. Historical US and Canada, no one went in. And the other ... is that there was an auto induction by Dave for Raul Paoli, a French booker, one of basically the guy that basically, as I understand it, created French wrestling to a degree, brought it over from America over into France, and was obviously extremely successful. And Dave auto-inducted him. There's way more information that obviously Phil Lyons put together, both on his blog and in the Wrestling Observer newsletter about it. I have to imagine that was the case presented to Dave, and Dave said, yeah, baby, I'm voting this guy in. myself. I don't need to ask the plebeians to vote for him. Anyways, well, speaking of it, that's the class of 2026. I'll bring it around the horn here. How do you guys feel about this class? Fred, I introduced you first, so we'll talk to you first. Fred, how do you feel about this class?
I was expecting 7 acts to get voted in, to be honest. I thought it'd be a smaller class. Not a complaint. I think everyone that got in has a good argument. I don't vote in the rest of the world, but I mean, it's pretty clear from people discussing Spiros Arian that he deserved it. He's a well-deserving candidate. I did think it felt like Hamada was going to get in. It just felt like it was building for that, and Bruns too. I mean, he had 56% last year. Mm-hmm. I am surprised that Sabu, Rhodes, and Punk all went in at the same time. I just didn't think that would happen for whatever reason. And Dixon, I mean, I thought it could have ended up with him getting like 58%, like just below. So pleasantly surprised. Yeah.
Adam, how do you feel?
Yeah, obviously a little disappointed, or quite a bit disappointed Hayabusa didn't get in, only missed by a couple votes. If he had gotten in 2, I would have been over the moon, because otherwise I'm very happy. I voted for, I don't vote in rest of the world, but everyone else that got in were people that I voted for. So really happy about that. Definitely surprised that all 3 of Punk, Cody, and Sabu went in, because it was a 6-vote region. So to have 3 guys go in means, over 60% voted for all 3. It seems like. So that's pretty cool. And it's a lot of progress in that region. I know I wrote a column before that we talked about the last time I was on, about how the modern era in the US and Canada has been underrepresented, but now we've made quite a bit of progress with all the top draws from the era going in. So it's pretty cool to see, and it sets up a really interesting region for next year too.
Yeah, both modern US and Canada and Mexico, very fascinating regions, because with 3 people going in modern and the next highest vote percentage being the Briscoes at 48.8%, that leaves a lot of room for a lot of votes to be split around. And obviously Mexico, in a similar case, Hamada and Darrell Dixon absolutely vacuuming up votes, because the next highest is Sangre Chicana at 31.9%. Just anyone's game.
I was one of those drive-by Mexico voters to vote for Hamada, because I had never voted in Mexico before. And those were the 3 guys that I voted for, was Hamada, Dixon, and Chicana. So yeah, it's just really cool to see Hamada not just get in, but get over 75%, which is pretty rare. Because remember, he had fallen off because of 1550 when he was on in Japan before, and then I think this was just his 2nd year back on the ballot in Mexico, and then just absolutely smashes it.
Time.
So I think part of it, unfortunately, was him passing away, and then the great obituaries that got written about him and his career, particularly the one Case Low wrote, which was absolutely incredible. So I think that probably got him a lot of attention, and then people realized, oh wow, he wasn't just an amazing worker and a solid headliner in Mexico, but really understood the vastness of his influence and how much of an innovator he was.
Plus, if I'm not mistaken, there's been a little bit more footage coming out of his time in Mexico, if I'm not mistaken, over the past couple of years. That certainly helps. Certainly helps indeed. I love it. 3 in modern feels great. It really opens it up. Obviously, same thing with Mexico. I am a rest of the world voter. I was very happy to see Spiros Arian go in. I would have liked also Jose Torres to maybe squeak in there, but I'm sure 57.3%. Well, I don't know. Next year might be a little bit tougher. There's 3 1550 people, if I'm not mistaken, next year in rest of the world for Jose Torres to fight against. So, and those are Billy Joyce, Dominic DeNucci, and Killer Carl Cox, if I'm not mistaken. So that's going to be an interesting battle, but we'll see how that plays out. And then Bob Runs obviously is great. Obviously, same thing there. We'll talk about more as it breaks down there. But Jesse Ventura, Gorilla Monsoon also getting a bunch of votes when they first got on the ballot. And then, Japan and historical. Obviously, historical, there was only one person fell off. No one goes in. So it's kind of hard to see no real progress there, especially historical where it's 20 acts, I want to say, off the top of my head. And then Japan, obviously, no one goes in as well. No one falls out at all. Obviously, Adam, I'm sorry you have to put away your little acceptance speech to a degree for this year, but always next year, buddy.
Yeah, what was it? 58 point something, like essentially
58.9.
58.9. So yeah, it's like 59%, just only a few votes away.
4 exactly.
Oof, yeah, doesn't get much closer than that. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but at the same time, I do think part of it was there were less votes this year than there were last year in Japan. I think they went from 4 to 3. And even though Shima and Shingo went in the year before, there were like obviously Zack Sabre Jr. had a big year. We saw him climb up significantly,
Oh yeah.
and then also Io Shirai, Sky getting added to the ballot. Someone who's pretty high profile and active, right now as well. So that probably a lot of people voted for her probably as well. Well, I mean, she was only around 20% or 24%, something like that. But and then
Mochizuki as well, 21.
Yeah, so I mean, that's like he was also around 20%. So the new people getting added that are still active, I think that definitely took some votes that replaced the inductees from the previous year, in addition to having one less vote in the region. But next year there will be 2 more votes available. There'll be 5 available, because we're up to, as you mentioned, nobody got dropped nobody got less than 10.
Yeah.
And we have 4 new people getting added next year, which makes it interesting.
Yeah, literally no change in Japan whatsoever. Historical only gets 1 drop off, and then immediately 2 more people gets added on, with Bill Dundee moving over there and Dick Murdoch just sticking around.
Did he ever really leave?
It wouldn't be a ballot if Dick Murdoch wasn't on it. Let's be honest. I think he's been on since 98 or something like that. An insane run this guy.
I thought he had a period where he fell off.
Let me pull up the old thing. If I'm not mistaken, he fell off at 1550 in 2014, and I don't remember.
Then he got added back when Dave added all the tag teams with
he had a couple years, right?
Yeah, so he was probably off for like 8 years or something like that.
98 to 2014, and then let's see if I can find he went back on in 2022. So for 2015 to 2021, he was completely off the ballot, but he's back, and he's back swinging. I don't know what I'm trying to say there. Fred, do you have any other thoughts on like historical in Japan? Obviously, we'll go break down the ballots, but no one getting in there. How do you feel about that?
I think with Japan in particular, it's going to be. I think Hayabusa is a lock to get into the near future, probably next year, but you never know. I mean, people have got it that close before and then just fallen off, as I make everyone that likes Hayabusa, have a moment of fear. But like, I don't think this ballot region is like knocking me over with strength. I'm not saying there aren't viable candidates here. I voted for Hayabusa, and I decided to vote for Zack Sabre Jr. But like, I don't think we've got anyone on this list who's like outside of Hayabusa that's like a clear-cut Hall of Famer. And I think that's going to be really interesting with the more recent setup we have with regards to, like, instead of just splitting 10 votes across all the categories you vote in, giving everyone a certain maximum per region by how many people are in. That's going to be interesting. I think that rule is intentionally or not set up to promote inductions. I think that is kind of an end result of it. And also people staying on the ballot in that like 10 to 20% range forever.
Yeah.
Which is going to be a real problem with the US-based stuff. I think that with historical, I mean, Jesse Ventura, was Jesse modern or historical?
He was historical. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's what I thought. June Byers, Ted's still modern. But the Von Erichs and Gorilla, those are all over 50%. So I would expect that bit of a logjam to break, but I do think a big concern with both of the US-based categories is just like, how and this is just part of the rules, is just complaining about it is just kind of silly, I think, in a way. But at the same time, like, we're going to have some of these candidates like stick around forever. Like Iron Sheik is going to be doing the 20% dance probably for the rest of our natural lives, it feels like. That's without even getting to like Trish Stratus, the most consistent performer ever. Is it a great performer? Don't worry about it.
Yeah, we have a lot to say about that bottom of the barrel modern class here. So
yeah. But fortunately, we're going to get some great candidates in that region next year.
So did you want to? So for historical's not changing much, I guess I'll say, right?
No,
I
yeah.
think the only real change is Dick Murdoch's back on as a single.
And a couple
and Bill
Dundee
Dundee's over there, right?
Over,
Yeah.
And
So those
obviously the weird thing to say, but always to bring it up is that, and there could always be more additions for historical. That's the one that always tends to get the late additions due to people passing away. So if, knock on wood, it doesn't necessarily, I don't want that to happen, obviously, but knock on wood, if anything happens to any older wrestlers, they might get popped on back or either return or new or whatever onto historical for next season. But this is obviously what we know for right now.
Yeah. And so in terms of looking at next year, I think like June Byers was really close. Obviously JYD was the closest. He was 58.6, and then June Byers was 57.6. So only a handful of votes away from getting in. June Byers though next year is going to be her 1550, so that could motivate some people to vote for her that maybe didn't previously.
Yeah.
Another thing to point out: this isn't as big a deal in historical because most people don't even use all their votes there, but there seems like there will be a 7th vote available because we're up to 21 candidates in that region now. So if some people didn't have room for June Byers for whatever reason last year, maybe they'll add her next year. So I think she'll probably get. That would be my prediction. Is I think at least she gets in next year, and then not sure about JYD or not. He's always like right on the cusp, although he has been improving constantly. So maybe next year is the year for him.
Did I very quickly recount my historical and get to 21? Yes, I did. Did I originally have it written down as 20? Yes, I did. Just quickly recounting and doing that. Yeah, 21. So that'd be 7 votes. You get an extra vote. Yeah, I think it's one of those situations where obviously, like with the 1550, everyone starts kind of focusing more on their cases. That's why I brought up with the rest of the world as well. We have 3 1550 people next year in that region, where you're just going to there's a good chance it's just going to hoover up more votes. And for someone else like Junkyard Dog, who's also at the top of the pack, pun intended, that it is a thing that like maybe I don't know. It's like maybe he'll go in, maybe he won't because of the 1550. But at the same time, it's like as we saw this year, it's not like there's much movement really for a whole lot of people. It's not like I think the biggest swing of votership in historical. I guess we can start there if we want to with historical, going by category by region. But I believe the biggest swing this year in year-over-year growth was with Cowboy Bob Ellis, going from 28.4% to jumping up to 37%. So and that's I think, and after that is Black Gorman and Great Goliath, 20 to 26, and yeah, outside of that, it's not like we're getting necessarily big swings. I think the biggest drop is Ole Anderson. I think it's fair to say that is a little bit of the death bump, a little bit waning from Ole. I guess also high percentage drops of Iron Sheik and Bob Armstrong as well. But yeah, it's not like there's massive movement. What those tell me is that like there were some voters that maybe voted for Ole or Sheik or Bob Armstrong that were maybe convinced to vote for Cowboy Bob or Gordman and Goliath, and then we're like, okay, I'll go and throw votes on them. But now with the 1550, it's like who the heck knows what's going to happen next year.
Yeah, one thing that I found interesting is the top 7 people, so starting with Cowboy Bob Ellison going up, they all improved from last year. Like even June Byers and JYD did better than they did the year before.
Except the Bulldogs.
Oh yeah, except for the Bulldogs. Yeah, the Bulldogs have actually kind of plateaued. This was actually the worst they've done since they got at it. They debuted in 2022 when they were at it at 52%, and then this year they were at 45%, and they've just been kind of in between that in the 2 years in between. So they've kind of just stayed consistent. But everyone else though, like Yeah, like even the Von Erichs, like they debuted at 33% back in 2022, and now they're up to 53.
Yeah.
So they've been growing. June Byers has been growing over time, and in part because of some of the work that Fred's done and others, researching her. And then JYD's he did really well like a while back, but this is the best he's ever done. He's been growing like consistently over the past 5 years. So this might be, I think, we could potentially see like someone, at least one, I think will break through and get in next year from the wrestlers in historical.
I'll set the table a little bit here. Obviously, historical, top of the pack still, Junkyard Dog, followed up by June Byers, the Von Erichs, British Bulldog, Sputnik Monroe, Wild Bull Curry, Cowboy Bob Ellis, Ole Anderson, Black Gordon, Greek Goliath, the Hart Foundation, Ricky Steamboat, and Jay Youngblood, Tully Blanchard, and Artist Hand with J.J. Dillon, Mad Dog and Butcher Vachon, Iron Sheik, Wild Samoans, Bob Armstrong, Archie Goulet, Sweet Daddy Siki with 11%, Goulet with 12, along with Bob Armstrong also with 12, and then Pampero Firpo exactly at 10. An insane exact at 10 number for him. Only Dusty Rhodes and Dick Murdoch get sub 10%, but obviously, as we already said, Dick's just going back on. So, it is what it is.
Can't avoid him.
Yeah, you can't avoid it. You can't avoid Dick. Fred, thoughts on historical, how things shake out? Is there anything that you like to see, movers and shakers, in terms of how the voting body played out? Are you happy to see some movement for some? You want to sort of see a course correction for others? How are you feeling overall about the historical region?
I mean, it's pretty fair. I don't, obviously I think the people I vote for should be in. That's not like a surprising take. Yeah, I know, right? Like, I also think that people should give me money because I'm cool. I can't really. There's nothing on here that sticks out as like bad. I think I'd have to really go down deep into scrolling through like the 10% stuff. But like like Iron Sheik's not really a viable candidate to me, and I think people just like. He was the guy that transitioned to Hogan, and that's kind of the peak of it. And then after that, that was not much to his case. And I think that there's a certain segment of the voting base, I hate to say, that are very much operating on a member berries basis sometimes with their votes, and you can see this elsewhere with like Stratus is a good example. I feel like and.
To that point, Iron Sheik is the lowest in the historical region to have been charted on the Reporters, Historian, Active Pros, and Retired Pros. He charted only for one of those categories for active professionals, ranked 25th in that thing. The next highest person who gets ranked is Hart Foundation, and they're obviously at 22%.
Yeah, like my general perception of myself within like the people that discuss this on the Voices of Wrestling Discord is that I'm one of the bigger hall people. Like I'm pretty much like, I think the people on that next tier where people might cut off have a good argument to be in and often vote for them and stuff. And then I heard some like interviews. Rich and Joe did one on their Patreon with I'm struggling to remember which of the two it was, but no, it was who wrote the Gorilla Monsoon book? I think it was him.
Googling.
Yeah.
Everyone's Googling.
That gentleman, started dropping stuff like, Gorilla Monsoon's got to be a Hall of Famer.
Brian Sullivan.
Yes, Mr. Sullivan. No offense to him. I'm not like trying to diss him or anything, but I was just like, wow, that's a bigger haul than mine.
Well, did he? If I recall correctly from that recording, he also said it was like George the Animal Steel is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, that one was like just like
the psychic damage that Fred took.
Like wow. Like
I believe Brian's from New York, so I think
that actually plays a
special place in his heart.
I get it.
I believe Brian was a student of George the Animal Steel. I think that might have been the thing.
Look, I can't. Everyone's got their own personal Hall of Fame, but like when I heard that one, it was just kind of like, whew, yes, for expanding our imaginary building.
He wrote the book on Gorilla Monsoon. He's got to write the book on George the Animal Steel.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Some of these, like, I'll also point to like El Hijo del Santo and Octagon to jump over to Mexico briefly. Like, they're, didn't do much, but they were in that big match on the When Worlds Collide show, and like I think that's really carrying a lot of their vote total. And the various other ones I could point at on the balloting, but yeah, I mean, I don't know that I have really great, like, real hot takes to issue on historical in particular.
I mean, that's fair. The fact that there's literally like no movement practically here, and that everyone's still on, except for Dusty Rhodes, really. I'm in the same boat.
I will say that I do wish the number of candidates in some of the larger regions were a bit smaller, because it's just really daunting. And I think that that sets up the possibility that you have a uninformed voter base that will do stuff like, I've never heard of this Dory Dixon feller. Why should I care about him?
We should say this. Just real quickly. We should say who if you voted in a region and who you voted for, just to set the table. I know that we have all of it's on public and on the public ballot trackers, but I feel like that should be a part of this as well.
Sure. You want a historical here?
Yeah.
Okay, I voted for June Byers, Wild Bull Curry, Junkyard Dog, the Von Erich, Sputnik Monroe, and I initially voted for Steamboat and Youngblood, and then I thought about it some more, and I asked Dave to change it over to Cowboy Bob Ellis. Which one did I actually vote for in the end? I don't know. One or the other.
No response from Dave. I have to.
No response from Dave. Why would I? I wouldn't expect one, to be honest.
And Adam,
he could have done that, or he could have just been like, "Go fuck yourself."
I'm already doing the math. I'm not gonna bother.
Yeah, don't mess with me. I'm tired of this.
Adam, who'd you vote for in this region?
Yeah, I voted for Junkyard Dog, June Byers, the Von Erichs, the British Bulldogs, Cowboy Bob Ellis, and Mad Dog and Butcher Vachon.
Copy that. I didn't vote in historical this year. I didn't feel fully confident because I'm a rest of the world voter. So I was like, and I pointed on my knowledge base and learning towards that. Plus, I spent the whole year learning about a bunch of random people that fell off. I'm working on it next year, so I become a historical voter.
So you haven't voted historical in the past, then?
No. This is my first year of having a ballot.
Okay.
I'm a brand new baby boy.
I didn't realize that. Okay. I was gonna say, because if you voted in it last year, then this year you should be fine because they didn't change much.
Yeah. If anything, this gives me an extra year to learn the exact same amount of people, so it's very helpful for guys like me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like good about a good amount of people. If I did vote, like Dog, Byers, Von Erichs, Bull Curry, Bob Ellis are all people that I feel confident voting for. It's like a couple of the I guess down ballot people that I'm necessarily not confident with, and because it's so large, as you said, Fred, like there's a daunting aspect of that, and I was just like, I'll hold off a little bit. Plus, and it was just like I just want to. I'll take a year to learn up on the rest of these people and come back stronger next year. That's my whole thing. But yeah, any other big takes on historical, I guess I should say. I'll do this real quick.
Did you want to do the non-wrestlers in historical, or break it, or do them separately?
I say we just do them separately.
Right.
I mean, we'll just one, because I have it written down that way, and two, I don't know, just because Adam.
That's okay.
Because I'm the host. This is my podcast.
Move on.
Person that did the best in reporters in this region were the Von Erichs. They ranked number 5 of 30, right? 30.
Just 30 for each group.
Historians, June Byers ranked the highest, 7th. Active professionals, the Von Erichs ranked the highest at 8th, and the retired professionals, I believe it is Junkyard Dog that ranked the highest at 21.
Yeah. Very interesting that the retired professionals don't have a historical. Actually, it's the British Bulldogs, I think, at 20. But you're right. They don't have anyone in their top 19 that is in the historical region, excluding like Gorilla Monsoon as a non-wrestler.
I wonder if that's like just a feeling of they feel like the people that are already in are Hall of Fame worthy, and they're, to a degree, there is an element of like, these are the people in 2025 after being on the ballot for however long, that there's an element of like, these are the people that are a little bit more fringy, Junkyard Dog even is a guy who's a headlining peak in Mid-South, but it's for a couple years versus, people who've been massive draws in other places. So I wonder if there's an aspect of that. Plus there's also, the fair aspect of just people not voting anymore or passing away or whatever, that I think Dave.
I would just expect to see more of what I see in like shoot sports, I guess, if I want to be fully wrestling brained with my terminology I'm using. But like, where you typically see former athletes be like, oh, when I played, they were the best. The people before me were also good. People after me unanimously suck.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, maybe it's just because they watch all the modern stuff so they can critique it exclusively. Maybe that's the reason. Maybe that's the reason.
Fair and reason critiques, definitely.
Any other big thoughts on this region from anybody?
No.
Not. We'll move on to modern US and Canada. So obviously 3 people went in this year. Punk, Cody, and Sabu. All 3 went in this year. Sabu, I think Punk went from 52.1 to 65.5. Cody 48.1 to 64.4, and Sabu went from nothing to 64.1. Just an insane re-debut, I guess we can say, on the ballot. Beyond that, you have the Briscoes, who will be the next leaders of the clubhouse next year. Samoa Joe, the Hardy Brothers, shout out TNA, Steiner Bros, John Moxley, Randy Orton, Becky Lynch, Edge, Adam Copeland, Bill Goldberg, the Outsiders, Bill Dundee also stayed on, I guess, 11.1, but obviously he's moving over to historical. Mercedes Moné, Trish Stratus, the ever-present, and Seth Rollins, the Pampero Firpo of the modern US and Canada. Only 2 people fell off this year, FTR and Drew McIntyre. Fred, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on modern US and Canada?
I think the 3 obvious inductions were done, and that's good. I am now mildly afraid that we're going to get stuck with a morass, a katamari of like people that will never get in for like several years, and we'll have to wait until like, I don't know, Will Ospreay's eligible or something. I feel like he's the next big, like, currently active candidate that probably will get in. Mm-hmm. I would assume rapidly, if not first year. Because sometimes I feel like with modern candidates, like, you get the people on their first year, and often you're like, yeah, they should be in immediately, at least with me. And then other people will be like, I would never vote for someone that's active. And it's like, oh, these are the rules. I don't know why we're adding rules just for you. Just to justify your takes. Yeah, but this is a mess down ballot, I will say.
Yeah.
And we could beat the Trish Stratus horse some more of just like this mind-boggling, always between 10 and 11.5%. Just like the most unkillable thing on the planet. There's tardigrades, and then there's Trish Stratus's Hall of Fame candidacy.
There's Michael Myers from Halloween, and then there's Trish Stratus.
God bless her, but I think I discussed this with Adam on the episode of The Good and the Bad and the Hungry a couple weeks ago. It's just like really mind-boggling that people are like, this is where I'm planting my flag. You'll have to take my ballot from my cold, dead hands before I not vote for Miss Stratus. It's tough. And I think we could be heading towards a period where, barring the addition of a big name candidate, and I'm not including any of the new proposals amongst that for this region. I think we could have a dry spell in this region, which is bad because there are approximately 18,000 candidates on the ballot.
That is certainly accurate. 18,000 on the ballot. I believe I have it as 17, close to 18,000.
I rounded up.
Yeah, my apologies, sir. Rounded up to 18,000. My apologies. Adam, what do you think about modern?
Well, I think the results were great. So for one thing, Sabu getting in like his first year back, that was really cool. That was really cool to see, to have like his influence and significance recognized. We had talked before how there wasn't really any wrestlers in from ECW. Like, I guess there's guys who wrestled in ECW, like
Terry Funk, but I wouldn't really say that's his basis of his case.
Exactly, right. Or like Mick Foley, he spent a little bit of time there, but that's a relatively small portion of his career.
Steve Austin, ECW legend.
Yes,
3 weeks of promos.
Well, he did save ECW at One Night Stand, so you gotta give him credit for that. But so having Sabu in, which he was, and that's perfect because he was what ECW based their style on in terms of what everyone thinks of ECW being and the influence that it had. That was all based on Sabu. Sabu was doing that before ECW became what it became. So that was really cool to see. And then, yeah, I know, Ryan, we've talked before about, the column I wrote last year about the modern generation in the US and Canada being underrepresented. And then, we see Punk and Cody both go in this year, who are obviously two of the top stars and most historically significant wrestlers of their generation and their era. So that kind of methodology about that I put together about the different generations. So like now I just want to read off the names of the inductees that became eligible or turned 35 since like within the past 20 years. So there's 10 inductees now for the US for that. It's The Rock, Rey Mysterio, John Cena, Brock Lesnar, AJ Styles, CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, and the Young Bucks. So if you're thinking about, the past 20 years, you can't really argue with any of those names, being inducted. They're obviously the strongest candidates from, at least in terms of that age range, over the past 20 years. So now we've got the most obvious people in, and it becomes a bit more of a debate. Like, okay, these are all the people who are clearly the strongest candidates that had the strongest cases. And now we're in a scenario where like it's wide open now. Yeah. And it really comes down to, okay, like what do you value and what do you think is the most important in terms of if you think any of these people are Hall of Famers, which, I do, because I voted for more people than just the ones that got in. But it's really interesting because you have, like the big stars from the 90s who haven't gotten in yet, like Goldberg, the Outsiders, the Steiner brothers. Then you got, the guys from the 2000s, Randy Orton, Edge, the Hardy Boys, that had spent time in WWE. And then you have, the Ring of Honor generation and guys who spent time in TNA, like Samoa Joe or the Briscoe brothers. And then you have like the 2010s WWE people and AEW candidates now, like, John Moxley and Mercedes and Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins as well. And then we've got some guys coming back or new guys getting added to the ballot. So we presume that Gunther/Walter will be in this region. We're not entirely sure about that, but
makes the most sense.
You'd think he would be. And then, like some WWE stars from the 2000s, like Batista.
Stars?
Well, I mean, yeah, they were headliners.
Sure, yeah.
We have Batista, Kane,
superstars.
Super duper stars.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really fascinating, just to me, because it's like, okay, do you value like influence and changing things? Yeah. And then if that's what you're looking at, then it's like, okay, you're probably looking at like Becky Lynch and Mercedes and the Hardy Boys and maybe the Outsiders too. Yeah. Like, maybe if you're looking at that, if you're just looking at like pure like drawing power and longevity, then, or maybe not necessarily longevity, but just drawing power. Like, I guess longevity would also be part of like, if you were a Randy Orton voter, like that's what you'd base it on, or like peak drawing power, maybe be Goldberg or Batista, looking at next year. Or if you're someone who's valuing work the most, then, you're looking at the Briscoe brothers and Samoa Joe. And then, in my opinion, John Moxley is the strongest candidate next year because he has all three. Like, you can say he's a Hall of Fame level performer between all the great matches he's had and his promo ability. You can say he's a Hall of Fame draw because of his headlining in WWE and then helping establish AEW and getting that, drawing very well for AEW. Like, he's headlined more pay-per-views than anyone in AEW history. And like, that's the best part of AEW's business that, hasn't declined over the years, even as they've added volume. So that's definitely a big credit to him. And then obviously the historical significance as well, in terms of being one of the headliners they relied upon to establish the promotion. I don't know how you can say like AEW is a historically significant promotion, but then John Moxley, the guy that they've relied upon the most to headline in that promotion, is not historically significant as well. So, yeah, I voted for him, and I'll vote for him again. He's behind a couple of the other candidates. I think probably just because he's a bit younger and more active than the others. But I'd expect to see him climb quite a bit next year. I don't know I think the Briscoes still might be probably the top vote getters next year, but I think Moxley's going to be number 2.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that 3 people going in and the next highest was, what did I say, 48%, 48.8% with the Briscoes. It's like anybody. It is. I think I saw you posted somewhere, Adam, where it's like it is a battle royale of anyone could be getting these excess votes. I mean, I don't quite remember off the top of my head who you guys voted for, but I have to imagine that either all of us have either 3 votes available or at least 2 votes available. I know I voted for Punk, Cody, Sabu, obviously. I also voted for the Briscoes, Moxley, and Lynch were my 6 votes. Adam, you already said that Moxley is a voter. You vote for Moxley. Who else do you vote for in this region?
Yeah, so I voted for Punk, Cody, and Sabu. So they all got in. And then I also voted for the Briscoe brothers and Samoa Joe. So I'll have 3 returning people that I voted for from last year, and Mox, Joe, and the Briscoes. And then we're currently at 17 candidates, it looks like, for this region. So if someone else gets added for whatever reason, then we could maintain the 6 votes from last year, or maybe we're down to 5. But either way, I'm going to have 2 or 3 open slots to figure out who to utilize them on exactly. And I've already kind of started thinking about that. It's just like, yeah, there's just so many different ways you could potentially go.
Fred, who did you vote for?
I voted for the 3 inductees, so Punk, Rhodes, and Sabu. I voted for the Briscoes, I voted for Moxley, and I voted for Mercedes Moné.
Yeah, Mercedes Moné I want to talk about this as well, Fred, because we talked about a lot in our episode, how these sort of women played out on this ballot.
Yeah, the FTR episode, just like you would draw it up.
Exactly right. So the women performed. I think. Well, I don't. Interestingly, really, the only person that really performed interestingly is Mercedes Moné. Trish, what is it to say? Obviously, that hasn't been said. 10.5%. Mercedes 10.9. And then Becky Lynch actually gained from 25.2 last year to 28.3 this year.
I'm a little surprised by that. I thought she would drop actually this year. I
felt that she would have dropped too. I would have thought that Mercedes, because in our circles that we typically discuss in, it was people always compared and contrasted the cases of Mercedes and Becky. And I felt that there was a chance that Mercedes would almost take away some Becky voters. And not only did that not happen, as Ethan Tyler has said online a couple times, that it's just in private conversations and private voters, they just don't see Mercedes that high as compared to Becky. Becky is the only one, obviously grew, and Mercedes barely hung on to staying on the ballot, which kind of crazy to me. I thought she would have gone a little bit better than that. But
this is a voting base largely, not entirely, obviously, because of so many moving pieces and everything. But there's a solid chunk of the voting base that the criteria is not ranked by Dave, but it is ranked by the voting base, and it's drawing first, and then influence, and then in-ring work. That's kind of how the voters, as a group, view those things. Just judging off of the history of voting. And it's very rare. Like Tommy, is one of the very few inductees for just in-ring, and it's very hard for someone to get in without really anything in the other ones. Just look at Zack Sabre Jr. to kind of point to an example of this. I don't think anyone here would be like, he established himself as one of the history's great draws in his year on top of New Japan, but he had a year on top, and he went from 16.3% to 49.7%. Look, I think he had a good year. Let's not, fool ourselves, but you'd think that he was, packing Osaka Joe every week or something, and not really happening. I don't blame him for that. He's just that he's the guy following the big star, and often it is a bit surprising because so often I feel like the voting base shits on the person that follows the big stars. And he's following, Okada, Tanahashi, Naito, Nakamura, I guess if you want to count him, Omega, Styles, that whole hot period. And now we're in the Geto didn't push anyone period. And so Saber's like on top, almost by default. I can't think of a less insulting way to say it, but like he and Goto are like the guys, right? Like the most established stars they have. And so they're like, well, we better give these guys the belts because our other options are like undercooked youngins and like the washed and also House of Torture. So I think that just like having any level of drawing is essential to being elected. Like otherwise you have to be as good as Tomohiro Ishii, which is one of the very best in-ring workers for like 15, 20 years.
Yeah, I think with Zach specifically, and I guess this isn't really about modern. I did have a point I wanted to make about modern, so I'll try.
Yeah, we'll go back. I'm sorry.
I'll try to find a way
it's
to
hurting cats with me.
But what I want to
tangent.
what with Zach, I think it gives people more confidence in a candidate when they see them pushed on top for any length of time, especially when it's in the biggest promotion in the region, because then it's not just like, okay, they're not just a career mid-carder that might occasionally get a main event here and there. It's like, okay, at some point in their career, the person in charge said, I'm going to make this my top act. And yeah, in terms of Zach, like his drawing, and not even compared to Tanahashi, just compared to like, late stage Naito, like wasn't nearly as good, but also he was not set up for success at the same time. Like his dome main event was with Shota Umino. Like it was that's rough. And then,
whatever he might become, like it was before he had anything figured out. Just that Zach was not set up for success. And then he, obviously like he dropped the title to Goto, and then Goto did well improved things. Mm-hmm. So I think that might have made Zach look bad a little bit. But then he got the title back, but that was because Goto had to go film Street Fighter. So he wasn't really built to it or anything. It was just kind of a random thing that happened. And then who he dropped it to was AEW wrestler Konosuke Takeshita, which is kind of a weird dynamic too, because it's like, what is Zach's defending the honor of New Japan, even though he's, a British guy. It's just strange. So yeah, I don't hold that against him. From a drawing perspective, I've heard some people have, but clearly most people did not, and viewed just having his run on top, like with the winning the G1 last year, then getting the Dome main event at least, and getting like 2 kind of short title runs. They viewed that as a positive, and it helped his case greatly. His vote total, I mean,
yeah, because he skyrocketed up. He's like around 50% now, and I think last year he was under 20. So
he was 16.3. So
yeah,
47. You were talking about modern. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. So what I was going to mention was, I think next year is going to be more telling for Mercedes, because I think the type of voters that would vote for Mercedes probably weren't going to rank her in the top 6 this year. When you have Cody, Punk, and Sabu, who all went in, and then additionally, you have, Mercedes. And Fred, you were kind of talking about this, about like, what do the voters value? So with Becky, I think both of them, it's historical significance is their primary attribute, both in terms of, Becky accomplishing something no woman has done before. And with Mercedes, like, being the best Americans women's wrestler of at least the past 50 years, if not more. But that's in a nutshell, that is drawing versus in-ring work. So if you're someone, so in order to vote for them, you have to. So in other words, you have to recognize their historical significance and appreciate that to consider voting for either of them, which maybe not everybody does, or at least not yet. And then the second thing is, okay, what do you value more? If you are going to vote for, let's say if you only have room for one of them, are you valuing drawing more, or like the in-ring work and influence? And I think with a lot of the voters who might value the in-ring work and influence more, they're probably voting for potentially Punk and Cody and Sabu and the Briscoes or Samoa Joe or John Moxley, people like that before they'll vote for Mercedes. So with Punk and Cody and Sabu all going in, that could free up some votes that could be utilized for Mercedes next year. So I think next year is going to be much more telling in terms of, what her at least near, short-term prospects are in terms of how close she might get or how high she can climb, or if, maybe she is someone that just hangs around. If maybe she just falls off, or maybe she's someone and then has to get added back in the future, or maybe she's someone who hangs around for years and years and then might see her, vote total, kind of steadily climb, maybe similar to someone like June Byers. But yeah, I'm really interested in seeing how she does next year, and I think that'll be much more telling.
I mean, I can speak to me immediately is that, I had my 4 votes figured out. It was Cody, Briscoe, Sabu, and Moxley were the 4 that I was like fairly certain on. And then for the 2 empty slots, I was deciding between Punk, Joe, Mercedes, and Becky. And I ended up going with obviously Becky and Punk. And it was just this thing of, I know for a fact that now that I have these, 3 people going in that I voted for, I know for a fact that like Mercedes is probably going to be the other one. I know probably that Samoa Joe's the other one. I am at the very last second, I started flirting with the idea of Goldberg, and I was like, oh, maybe I'm gonna do more research on this guy next year.
If that happens, just talk to me.
We'll do. But yeah, this thing of I fully agree with what you're talking about. Is this how it plays out? Is it tended to not be a fight between their cases per se, but just rather a fight between drawing and in-ring. A sort of perennial fight with this Hall of Fame is, people always tend to go back to drawing and having, like, as we spoke to about Zack Sabre Jr. on that tangent, the idea of just because he's on top now, it now opens the door for a bunch of people now to vote for it. It didn't necessarily have to be even seen as like great drawing, but just like the fact that he's on top, that almost makes me wonder how a guy legitimately like coming onto the ballot next year, and I'm excited to get to his episode next year on the ballot, is a guy like Gunther, a guy like Walter, where it is this thing of, he does have a laundry list of cage match, high rated matches on cage match. I don't think as much, I already wrote it down, I believe, not as much as Zack Sabre Jr. He has 129 matches rated 8 or higher. And that is over the course of 17 years. Which is a pretty crazy amount. But it's also a thing of, he's also a guy that was just on top in WWE. He held the title for a good length of a while, and then obviously also had the match against Goldberg for the retirement match. So there is like things about his case that almost strike me as similar in the fact that there is a on top during a boom period, not 1A obviously, but obviously the secondary belt. But the fact that he has these things, just like there's something here that I think is going to attract a lot of voters next year. So I'm very fascinated to see how like he will debut next year, especially since it is such a battle royale and it is so open here.
Well, the other thing too is he's rumored to be the guy who's going to retire John Cena, and then that could potentially lead to
he's the guy that retires everybody.
He retired because he retired Goldberg too. So if that becomes like his gimmick, and
AJ Styles around the corner.
Yeah, that would be an awesome last match for AJ. Oh man, now I'm going to be disappointed with what they actually.
May I add, Der Legend Killer. Thank you.
Could work. But
it worked. I want people to know it worked better because Fred's screen also froze on my end, and so it worked better than just lean in. All I hear is Der Legend. My God.
Yeah, like you said, he was, held the secondary belt and had the, the Intercontinental title for a while before that. So he's not, not like a 1A top guy, but, he has a lengthy list of great matches from his time on the Indies and NXT, and obviously one of the best workers in WWE. And he did headline, night 1 of the first ever 2-night SummerSlam, which I think people take for granted that was a success and as big as it was, because like SummerSlam, it hasn't been a stadium show for that long. Like it was in arenas, like for the most part.
Yeah.
like even before the pandemic. It was in arenas, I think, almost entirely, with a few exceptions here and there. So yeah, that was impressive. And if he gets another big push heading into voting season next year, he could be someone who has a surprisingly high vote total. I could totally see that, because like the drawing people might look at him favorably because of his time, on top or around the top in WWE, and then the work rate people are going to look at him favorably as well too. So I could see him doing really well during his debut year.
The two big movers and shakers I saw as well this year were both Samoa Joe and Matt and Jeff Hardy, both increasing pretty substantially. Samoa Joe 23.2 to 36.5, Matt and Jeff Hardy 23.4 to 36.6. 35.6. Sorry. The dyslexia from my brother kicked in all of a sudden. They both grew pretty big from where they were, about 50% increase year over year there for Joe and the Hardys. And I think those are the biggest ones. There's no big drops. I think the biggest year over year drop is like Trish technically, but like no one else really moved that much the needle. It's really just a lot of votes. I guess Sabu obviously is the biggest mover and shaker in this region. But yeah, it is.
Trish dropping 0.4% there's got to be someone who was worth it, but not many. Like to your point,
their hand on their desk, like, how dare they?
Well, like I didn't realize that, but your point's actually pretty fascinating. That nobody really rose, other than the guys you mentioned. Nobody really rose or fell that much. It's just like a couple. Like I guess the Briscoes jumped up a bit. They went up. Like
Briscoes,
10%.
I do for my year over year growth thing on the thing I'm looking at. I do it based off the percentage. So obviously, Samoa Joe, like I said, 23.2 to 36.5. That's a 57.3% year over year growth. Matt and Jeff Hardy were 52.1 year over year growth. The next highest would be Cody, who obviously went in. I'm obviously throwing Sabu. I'm not even discussing him because there's nothing to compare. Cody with the next highest. He went in. The fourth highest is Mark and Jay Briscoe, and then number 5 is Punk. So it is basically the top, what is that, 6 acts on the card had the biggest movement, and then everyone else kind of moved the same. I think the next highest beyond that is Moxley at 22.8. So it's
Moxley went from 26 to 32. Matt and Jeff went from 23 to 35. Samoa Joe went from 23 to 36, and then the Briscoes went from 37 to 48, almost 49. Yeah. So those are other than those ones though, like everybody else in the category was just like barely minimal movement at all. So I get like it sounds like the same people who were voting them before, the same people who are voting for them now. But again, next year, we have 3 candidates that got in and potentially the exact same number of votes. So yeah, we're definitely going to see more movement next year, which I'm fascinated by what that'll look like.
Me too.
I think voters could very well, I could buy there being a subsection of voters who are having 2 or 3 votes freed up and do not use any of them. Like, I think that's very much a possibility.
Sure.
Not saying I agree with the viewpoint, but I could see a sizable chunk of the voters in this region just being like, okay, well, we did our work and everyone else does not compare. So,
and we'll talk about them a lot more later, but looking at the newbies and the returnees for next year, you have this voting body that purposely adds more rules, and they don't vote for active wrestlers. 3 non-active wrestlers all going on to the ballot is, I have to imagine, it would play some sort of number on here, but we'll obviously see how that plays out next year. The best categorical based on the voter pools, Punk did the best for reporters at ranking number 6. I'll point out Cody number 7. So both very high there. Historians, the highest ranked person here was Sabu at number 6, ranked 6th rather. Active professionals, Sabu also did great, the highest at ranked 3rd. I'll say point out Punk had 4 on active professionals. And then
and what I think is really interesting there, Hardy's at 7.
Hardy's at 7, above Cody too, is interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. And then for retired professionals, kind of what you were talking about a little bit earlier there, Fred. Number 1 with a bullet, ranked number 1, Cody Rhodes for retired professionals. I think the next highest would have been, of course, Randy Orton.
Randy Orton.
Ranked 6.
And then Edge was 7th, and the Hardys were 8th.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
We see the trend. We see the trend here with some of these the retired professionals. Yeah, just fascinating group, a bunch. Any other big thoughts on this region?
Yeah, I did have one, and I think it might have just left my head because I'm an empty-headed idiot.
Oh no,
I do.
Don't say that.
I do think it is very funny that Trish Stratus is basically like I will always harp on this, but she's basically the magnetic pole of the ballot. She moves technically, but like not very far.
She moves, and I think these percentages based on movement is just like how many additional voters are voting in this year, and like
Yeah.
I think literally the exact same people vote for Trish every single year. And just her movement is just because Dave is adding more, giving guys like me a ballot. And I'm like, Trish, no, thank you. And moving off.
There was the one guy that wrote an article this year that was like, I'm a new voter and I'm voting for Trish Stratus because
Good point.
I forget what his exact reasoning was, but it was you could have boiled it down in a tweet to like, she was a problem exhaling emoji.
Yeah, I think the amount that was written was essentially tweet length about the rationale for voting for her. Yeah, she was. It is amazing how consistent she is. Between 10 and 11% the last 5 years. They're just amazingly consistent. So yeah, it has a very loyal voter base.
Yeah. Two other things that we didn't mention that maybe we should mention: Seth Rollins sticking it out on 10%, doesn't fall off this year for the 3rd time.
He made it.
Godspeed on succeeding at the most minimum level on your 3rd try, I guess, Seth.
Good. Well, good for him. Good for him. And then obviously we had 2 fall offs with FTR and Drew McIntyre. Guys, what happened? Why didn't you guys give a good enough case for them?
Bad at my job. Please refer to my previous statement about being empty-headed. I actually do have an affiliate on the FTR thing. This is what I had thought of, and then it left my head. But it came back because I'm smarter than I give myself credit for. Not really. Okay, so FTR, I think falling off like this is indicative of just like how people do not look at tag teams with a different frame of reference than singles acts. I think you can. I think this is a good point in favor of that because tag teams typically are together, do not have careers nearly as long as singles wrestlers when they're voted on, which makes a lot of sense because like outside of like brothers teams, it's very rare that a tag team will stick together for like 10 plus years. And so no one's like, normally I would expect a singles wrestler to have 8 years of excellence or 10 or whatever, kind of rule of thumb people have. But for a tag team, I will shorten that. And no one's shortening that for tag teams. I think it's a fair conclusion here because we did talk about FTR and I said I wouldn't vote for him, but like they did have an argument because they have been generally pretty excellent. They have had a couple years in the wilderness when they were shaving backs and like hanging out in a truck in Jacksonville. But I think that, if you really were like tag team friendly, you could have been like, F it, we'll go with them. And there's not that many people like that, clearly. So I think that's just kind of indicative of like how tag teams have a more of an uphill battle, I think, compared to just singles acts.
That's something I'm really trying to work on next year is like investigate sort of the, not necessarily on top, but longevity of tag teams and see how they sort of compare both, the ones that are in Hall of Fames. I did like a very initial thing. It was something about how like, I think if I recall, the people that are in the Hall of Fame tend to, on average, or had a median roughly of 16 years as a tag team. And it's like, oh, okay, that's way higher than I kind of thought it would be for tag teams. Like I wouldn't say that applies to singles wrestlers, quite honestly.
No. But I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
I think
Adam, what's your excuse about Drew McIntyre?
Well, I was just gonna say with FTR, I think the part of their problem too is even if you're a tag team, even if you like are more generous in terms of rating tag teams, they're on the same ballot with the Outsiders, the Steiner brothers, the Hardys, and the Briscoes. So just, I mean, I guess they have more time together than the outsiders do, but if you're voting for the outsiders, you probably don't care about that. It's drawing in significance anyway.
Because you almost misspoke. I do have to ask, if the Outsteiners were to have formed, would that be Scott Steiner with Hall or Nash? Which one do you think would have been better? Probably Hall, right?
It would have been, the Freebird rules 4-man tag team.
Okay.
I would like that.
Which would mostly have just been the Steiner brothers wrestling and then Hall and Nash like joking around on the outside.
What if that would be? Honestly, I would enjoy it. I think that.
I mean, that's actually something they should have done. That would have been great, great group.
Well, the
Steiners just like suplexing people to death, and Kevin Nash on commentary be like, ah, generally a charming person who was not a good worker, Kevin Nash. Yeah, I'm shocked that Drew even made it on. I mean, God bless him, because I think he is a great performer that has been, he's one of these people from the past 20 years that like you can see a sliding door scenario where he would have put together a strong case, and that did not play out in our reality at all. Mm-hmm. And it's just unfortunate because like he's good enough where he could have been a Hall of Famer, I think. And I'm not going to say that he can't be, because people are wrestling later and later these days, but he is more up there in age than you would think. I mean, he is 40 right now, so he could retire next year. He could retire in 5 years. He could, be a weirdo that hangs around for 20, I guess. And it's just hard to project at this point. But like so much of his time was in his career was just kind of wasted by bookers, and then he had to go off on the indie sojourn to rebuild himself, and no one I think another thing we can take away from this is that we're at the point where people will start to give ECW some credit, but it took 30 years, excluding Paul Heyman. And so you're going to have to possibly wait another decade for people to care about Ring of Honor and TNA. Like, I feel like we just kind of crossed the Rubicon with TNA, where if you'd asked me 5 years ago if anyone would have been voted in, like with Samoa Joe or AJ Styles, like primarily TNA case, I would have laughed at you, because AJ Styles fell off right away. Remember when he was first added? Then he spent a year in New Japan, and like people are like, he's great, we're voting him in. And it's like, not that much changed.
Yeah.
So he actually fell off twice.
That's right. Yes.
In a row. So one was when he left. One was 2013. I think it was 2013, 2015, and then 2017 he got added back, and then he went in because at that point he had headlined multiple years
WWE
in New Japan, both in New Japan and in WWE.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone was oh yeah, he's pretty great, isn't he?
The good Seth Rollins path.
I was about to say a similar thing. He falls off twice and gets it immediately.
But then Seth, 10% though. Hey, so I did say I thought he was going to stay on this time. I thought he had done just enough. Although
I don't know.
I think literally, just enough. I thought this year was going to be like his big run because every time they tried to push him before, it was like bad business declines happened, and it was like, okay, they're doing pretty well. Like, yeah, they're cooling off, but they're still doing pretty well. And so if he's on top, and then, through Mania season and has a really great run, this could be like kind of the thing people point to when, oh no, he does draw and can work well on top. He's not just like an occasional guy they plug in, but then every time they try to actually go with him, it doesn't work, and then he actually gets hurt after exaggerating.
The sheer irony of the Hall of Fame ballots coming out, Seth winning that Night of Champions thing, cutting a promo while he's injured, saying, "I'm the best wrestler in the world," and then the next day it's like, he's injured, he's going into surgery, he's going to be out for several months, he's giving up the title. It's like, oh boy, God, this
like they had to speed run that play.
I don't know what it is.
And I would argue that this is the second time that he's been in a position where he arguably was being set up for like a Hall of Fame level year, with the other one being as the top heel during the Daniel Bryan era,
Sure.
and suffers a major injury, and it just falls apart for him, which is kind of tragic. It's the second kind of like lost Hall of Fame career, you know, in a sense. Like, because if that first one had worked out, who knows? Like, he might have just been established as a top guy and rode that for the next decade. And here, you know, who knows what it's going to be like when he comes back in 6 or 9 or however many months. You know, it's that's the second one. The other one being just like, the people in the aughts couldn't book, and there were 2 places to work in the US.
Well, I think this with Seth, the worst thing that happened in his career, it wasn't the injury when he had to vacate the title in 2015. It was that they didn't bring him back as a babyface when everyone wanted him to come back as a babyface. And they did that documentary showing him like rehabbing and
working like, really hard, like all this babyface stuff.
You know, trying to get back from Mania, but he was never going to make it back, and how disappointed he was, and everyone was ready to cheer. It's really
good.
And then he's a heel. They bring him back.
It's really good to book people like Buff Bagwell, right? Like, that worked out great, right?
Well, I mean, Vince wanted to push Buff Bagwell. Well, you know, he didn't wanted to push Buff Bagwell. He did for whatever reason, but
for 24 hours, and then woke up. It was like, oh my God, what'd I do?
What have I done? Cancel everything. Cancel it all. All right. I think we're good on modern. I think we'll move on to Japan.
No, we need to discuss the new additions, right? Are we doing that now?
We'll do it at the end. We'll do it at the end.
Okay.
Japan. So Japan, no one went in this year. No one fell off. Literally, you know, the same thing applies to historical, except nothing happens. It's exactly not exactly the same, because obviously there's a lot of, well, one mover and shaker in this category, but we'll talk about him in a moment. Hayabusa still at the highest, 58.9. He did grow, but
he's not low Abusa.
Very good. 10 comedy points. Zack Sabre Jr., Manami Toyota, and Toshiada Yamada. Tiger Jeet Singh, Yoshiaki Fujiwara, Io Shirai, Yoshihiro Takayama, Masaki Mochizuki, Miko Satomura, Antonio Inoki, and Seiji Sakaguchi, and Satoshi Kojima and Hiroshi Tenzan. For people I voted for in this region, it was Hayabusa, it was Zack Sabre Jr., and it was Mochizuki is who I voted for. Fred, who did you vote for in Japan?
I only voted for Hayabusa and Zack Sabre Jr.
And then Adam?
My ballot was the same as yours. Exactly the same.
Wow, I'm shocked he voted for Hayabusa. But yeah, obviously no movement. And the big, like I said, mover and shaker last year, 16.3% of the ballot in Japan for Zack Sabre Jr. This year, 49.7%. That year-over-year percentage growth, 204.9%. Absolutely vacuuming up every single vote. Every other act declined except for Hayabusa and Tiger Jeet Singh in terms of that. Obviously, another thing that obviously took up some votes were Io Shirai and Mochizuki, both doing fairly well, getting onto the ballot, both above 20%, doing really well on their debuts. But yeah, it's just the story of Japan to me is the story of Zack Sabre Jr. just eating up votes here.
Yeah, well, he's also the only one. So other than the new people who are still active, Sabre's also the only one who's really still active and, you know, adding to his case.
No, Io Shirai.
Well, that's right. Yeah, she was new. She was brand new, though. I meant from from the returning people. He was the only one who, you know, did anything to add anything.
To a degree, Satomura, was active and
oh, that's true.
Yeah,
that's
she
true.
did have the big retirement tour and then lost 3.8%. That's tough.
That is
tough.
Actually.
That to me that wraps a bow on the entire case for Miko Satomura. She retired this year and she fell.
Yeah, I think it's going to be tough for her. I think especially as the next generation of Joshi start getting added to the ballot, like that, and they're a big, and they were on bigger platforms because their promotions had grown. You know, since when compared to like the promotions Miko spent most of her career in. So, yeah I think it's going to be. I'm not high on her prospects moving forward, but yeah, it's going to be interesting next year because there's 2 more votes. So we only had 3 votes in Japan this year. We'll have 5 next year. Yep. So there might not, to Fred's point, I think especially in Japan, there's probably a lot of people who just aren't going to use all 5 votes, but you know, there will be quite a few people who do. maybe there are some of these people that they have voted for in the past or wanted to vote for, but just didn't have room because they only had 3 this year. I think it's interesting that, outside of Saber and Hayabusa and who was the other one that you meant? There was one other person. Tigerjeet Singh, like going up a bit. Everyone else declined. So that to me indicates that, there was just kind of a crunch on available votes. So some of the people that might have gotten, the 4th vote for someone in Japan last year, like didn't get it this year with between like other returning candidates that maybe voters had voted for and some of the new people that got added as well.
Fred, do you have any big thoughts on Japan?
Other than fighting an urge to make a big on Japan joke here, which is barely a joke. Not really. I mean, I'm interested to see how great Sasuke does next year. I know I'm jumping ahead of it there, but I think he is intriguing as well as the other edition. I'll save that, keep that powder dry. I am surprised that Io, in the middle of like a year where she's getting talked about as basically the best wrestler in WWE, I think by a lot of people, didn't get 25%. Like that shocked me a little bit.
Do you think she would have done better in Modern?
Yes, I think so. I think people.
That's
Adam, a good question.
No, well, hold on. We'll put a pin in that.
That's a good question though, because that's the far more competitive region right now. I think so. I think that the people that would have been inclined to vote for her would be more Modern voters than Japan voters, just off of the WWE run. Because I will go back to, there's a certain segment of people that only vote in Modern, or maybe Modern in a couple other categories, that are just like WWE success, great, you're in, kind of stuff. So,
Adam, you shook your head no.
She wouldn't do better in Modern. I mean, if Becky Lynch is getting like 28 and Mercedes is only getting like 10 or 11, like Io's not gonna do better. So I think Japan that's where most of her career has been, and while she has been,
I think it's where she should be.
Like that's because her career is primarily like work, and that's where most of her work has been. At least we forget how long. I know we're talking about Gunther a bit earlier in terms of what region he might belong in, but I think we forget how long he's been in the WWE system at this point, because he was in that goes. I don't know if NXT UK, what does that count for?
Very legitimate WWE.
I don't know who that was for, but because it wasn't like they were doing these giant shows or anything, but it was on the WWE network, so I don't know. But
it was definitely not for trying to push it.
It's kind of crazy to me that NXT UK, after all said is done, and it's been several years since NXT UK has been something, and trying to reboot it or whatever the heck they're trying to do, it's interesting to me that, like, realistically, there is one guy that came out of that as a major star, that being Gunther, right? I mean, like, the other people that came out of it that did really well, I guess Ilya Dragunov would be there. I think, a little bit at the tail end.
It's a little early, but he's not doing bad.
Yeah, he's not doing bad, because then the other guys that peaked really high at the beginning were obviously Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate, and Tyler Bate is just wavering around, and Pete Dunne is now a producer for AAA.
When you have a 19-year-old incandescent star, you absolutely positively have to do nothing with them.
You got to wait until they're 40.
Classic booking. You have to wait until they're 74. And then you can try something in the year 2117.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. They're doing great as the Americano guys. So they're killing it.
What spoilers? Kayfabe here, Adam. How dare you?
I can't. Mike Quackenbush is on the phone.
Don't get him off the phone, please. Reporters, Hayabusa did the best, ranked 4th for reporters. Historians, Zack Sabre Jr. ranked 8th. Active pros, Zack Sabre Jr. also ranked the highest at 6th, and retired professionals, just very indicative, I think, of how little retired professionals vote in the Hall of Fame. The highest was Manami Toyota and Toshio Yamada, who ranked 2nd, and they fell year-over-year decline of 20.6%. So very, I think, indicative, and that was the only thing they ranked in as well. But also looking at this now, not a lot of like ranked Japanese people. Reporters, it was Hayabusa and Zack Sabre Jr., the only ones that ranked. Same thing for historians. Same thing for active professionals, which is Hayabusa and Zack Sabre Jr. And retired professionals, it's 4 different people: Hayabusa, Zack Sabre Jr., Toyoda Yamada, and Inoki and Sakaguchi. So really not ranking really at all for a lot of these people, which is, I think, interesting. I don't know what it means. I just think it's interesting. I think that's all we got for Japan. We'll move on to Mexico. I know we have a hard out, so we'll keep moving along. Mexico, Grant Hamada and Darrell Dixon both get in this year, both doing exceptionally well, both getting over 70%. Grant Hamada joining the 75% club here of 75.2, Dixon 74.8. The next highest go-getter. Was that?
Missing 75 by 1 vote.
Yes. By 1 vote for Dixon there. Sangay Chicana is the next highest person at 31.9, I believe. And then you have Mascareñas Sangrada, Valador Jr., Angel Blanco, and Dr. Wagner, El Dandy, La Parca from AAA, El Hijo del Santo, and Octagon. And the only people falling off the ballot this year is Los Infernales. So that's 3 people, in a way, going off the ballot next year. And only, obviously, we'll talk about them, 2 people going on, I believe, off the top of my head, without looking at it. Adam, thoughts on Mexico?
Yeah, I mean, Dixon and Hamada were 2 of the 3 people I voted for. So really cool to see that so many people voted for them, because over 70% is insane. Like Hamada getting over 75 is amazing. So that
75% club is like what, 20 people all time, if that.
Yeah, it's not that many. And the list is like,
18 acts all time. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like,
can you read us that list real quick?
Yeah, it's Kenta Kobashi, Chushin Liger, Kazuchika Okada, The Rock, Kazushi Sakuraba, the one kind of weird one, Luis Perazos, Jim Crockett Jr., Ryan Danielson, Mick McManus, Shinya Hashimoto, Spiros Arion, Manami Toyota, Steve Austin, Brock Lesnar, Toshiaki Kawada, and Akira Taue as a tag team, Mystico, Rey Mysterio, and Gran Hamada.
Pretty solid list, gotta say.
Yeah. I mean, that's like a hell of a, like, if we're inducting 18 people to start a Hall of Fame, like that you could do worse as a starting list for sure.
Yeah. So there's probably only going to be, I don't know if there'll only be 2 votes in Mexico next year, because I think they only added 1 guy. So there's only 8 candidates right now. Maybe he'll probably add somebody else, by the time the ballot rolls around next year.
The 2 guys, Los Espantos and Colosso Colasetti, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I believe Colasetti's going to Mexico. I assume he is.
Yeah. Okay.
He's Argentinian, but wrestled mainly in EMLL.
Okay, so we end up with 3 then. So yeah, I mean that'll be interesting to see who people use them on, if anyone.
Yeah.
But I think Sangre Chicana, leader in the clubhouse coming in, but it's not. I mean, everyone.
It could be a no induction year for sure.
It really could be, because like Chicana, Sagrada, Volador, and Blanco and Wagner, like they've all, I think like the highest percentage any of them has ever gotten is like 33. So like it'd
be hard.
So yeah, it'll be interesting. Like that actually could be similar to modern, where like they all go up potentially just because there's more available votes, but nobody gets in.
Yeah. The biggest movers and shakers I have here obviously is Hamada and Darrell Dixon. Hamada had year-over-year growth, 76.9% year-over-year growth. Dixon, 40.6%. So they obviously exploded. Then 2 big drops here. 55.8 decline in Santo and Octagon. And then a 40.85% decline with Blanco and Wagner. Obviously, year-over-year, 30.6 to 18.1 for Blanco Wagner, 28.5 to 12.6 for Santo and Octagon. Those guys were the only tag teams, by the way, in this region, both dropped significantly in this region. And obviously, well, not only that, I guess, Los Infernales, the other tag team that didn't even make it. So I don't know what that's saying about tag teams, about Hall of Famers, but obviously when it's deciding about where am I going to put my votes, it's not towards tag teams. That's what I can say there for Mexico. Who did you guys?
It's MS1, not MS10 or more. So that may be part of the problem.
Fred, please keep these jokes coming. I appreciate it. 10 more comedy points. Fred, who did you vote for in this region? Did you vote in this region?
I voted for Dixon, Hamada, and Volador Jr. I was on the fence about Volador, but I've been watching Lucha for the most part for like 6-7 years, and the entire time he's basically been one of the very top guys. So like, Yeah, sure. I could take that vote back next year. It was kind of a like, I'm trying to get my ballot right now. Do I vote for him? Let's go with the vibes kind of thing. But
And Adam, you said Hamada and Dixon. Did you vote for a third?
Yeah, Sangre Chicana.
Perfect. I didn't vote in this region, but if I did, it would have been Hamada, Dixon, and Masquerita Sangrada. That's what I would have did, but it doesn't matter. I didn't vote. Best people that did by voting pool reporters. Hamada was number 1. Dixon was number 2. No one else ranked. Historians. Hamada and Dixon tied both for number 2. The only other person that ranked was Sangre Chicana. Active professionals. The highest is actually way down on this ballot. Ranked number 14, La Parca from AAA. Very interesting one there. And then retired professionals, the only one that ranked in all of Mexico was Darrell Dixon, ranked 17th for retired professionals. And he takes from these voting pools. Why is La Parca AAA doing so well with active professionals?
The question is always, are people confusing him with LA Park?
Plausible.
Yeah.
There was, I think, on the what is the freaking name of Jeff Jarrett's podcast?
Oh, My World, probably. I think
My World, yeah. Jeff did not confuse it, but I believe Conrad did confuse it.
Conrad did.
Write down. Yeah. So not a shock. Mexico. I think it's going to be very interesting. I would also not be surprised if no one goes in next year. Maybe a couple years, perhaps, depending how it plays out. But like we said, with reporters and historians also ranking them extremely high, and both of them getting over 70% of the vote. There are so many votes up for grabs in this region. I think the only thing that'd be interesting, Adam, you kind of talked about it a little bit. You were like a drive-by fly-in voter here in Mexico. I wonder if there is any thought to voters leaving and not voting in this Mexico region and being true drive-bys.
Yeah, that could definitely happen. Like, just as an example, like Chicana was actually a lower percentage this year than he was last year. But if you look at the vote totals, he got 15 more votes this year than he did last year. But there was just so many more people voting in the category because of Gran Amada, I imagine, primarily, that, his percentage didn't really change much. It stayed the same, even though he got more votes. So if a lot of those people leave next year, then we could probably see and obviously with more available votes as well, we could probably see some very large jumps for, the top few candidates.
Yeah, I'm truly fascinated how Mexico is going to shake out next year. I cannot predict a single thing in this region.
I can see a fair number of votes in this region that aren't abstaining, but are just like, I'm voting for no one.
Sure.
I could see zeros here for sure.
Sure. Yeah. Like I said, Mexico is going to be a fascinating one. Rest of the world, I imagine this will be a quick one because I believe I was the only one that voted in this region.
Abstain.
I voted for Ariane, Jose Torres, George Gordienko, and Ted Boy Marino. Obviously, Spiros Ariane went in 78% on the dot from him. Next highest was Jose Torres at 57.3. Then you have Otto Vans popping up out of nowhere here. Billy Joyce, George Gordienko, Dominic DiNucci, Adrian Street, the Royal Brothers, Ted Boy Marino, Gilbert Leduc, Killer Carl Cox, Steve Gray getting 10.1%. And of course, Les Kellett, the only one dropping in. So 2 people off the ballot next year. And I know we'll talk about it later, but 3 people. Oh, no, 2 people, I think, added on for next year. What do you guys think? Any thoughts? I know you guys didn't vote in here, but any thoughts on rest of the world and how that played out?
I think it shows the power of 1550 because that motivated everybody to vote for Ariane, or motivated a lot of new people, I would say, to vote for Ariane, or maybe people who didn't vote for him before to prioritize him this year. So that's something to watch for DiNucci and Carl Cox next year. Carl Cox isn't far away, I don't think. Oh yeah, Joyce as well. So yeah, that's going to be definitely something to watch and see how, does that hold Torres back, or is he still able to get in, and do any of them get in as well, or do some of them fall off? So, or at least get 50 so they can fight another year. But yeah, it's going to be just a lot of progress with so many candidates getting in. So then but then new candidates getting added, so the overall available votes remain about the same. So yeah, a lot of opportunity for some of these candidates to make some progress next year.
Yeah, 3 getting added on. I fully expect that sort of situation where Torres is so close. How many votes away? I think it was like 2. It was 2 votes shy, according to Dave, which is insane because I do think that having 3 people 1550, granted, obviously Carl Cox extremely low. I doubt I imagine he will fall off to 1550 next year. But even then, having 3 people there, I imagine it might hold Jose Torres out. We'll see what happens, but I think it's an interesting region in that regard because of it. Fred, do you have any grandiose thoughts here?
Not really, no.
That's perfectly fine. Reporters did the best was Spiros Arion, ranked 3rd. Historians, he also did the best, ranked 1st overall. Other top 5 people were Jose Torres at 4th and Billy Joyce at 5th. Active professionals, Spiros Arion again did the best, ranked 2nd. And retired professionals, Dominic DiNucci did the best, ranked 5th. So interesting category. I like rest of the world. We'll see how it goes next year because it's going to be a battle. Basically, I think, like we said, Jose Torres versus 3 other guys. And obviously, Les Kellett fell off, which tells me that no one sees comedy wrestling as a Hall of Fame act, which is fair, I would say. I struggle with it and didn't even vote for Les Kellett. So I think that's pretty representative there. Non-wrestlers. We'll move on to non-wrestlers to close up these region by regions conversations. Bobby Bruns getting in this year, 62.7% of the vote. Following that is Jesse Ventura, Ted Turner, Gorilla Monsoon, Mike Tenay, Morris Siegel, Koichi Yoshizawa, Larry Mastick, Jim Johnston, Roy Welsh, Grand Wizard, Stanley Weston, James Melby, Tony Schiavone, Dave Brown, Rossi Ogawa, George Scott, Kevin Sullivan, Bob Caudle, Zane Bresloff, Reggie Parks, Joe Higuchi, and the only person falling off is Bill Mercer. 2 people no longer in this category, and no one new getting added on, which is interesting, to say the least. But we'll see, obviously, if anyone else gets added on late here. Fred, any thoughts on the non-wrestlers region?
Yeah, I voted for, I'll go over who I voted for first. Bobby Bruns, Grand Wizard, Morris Siegel, Ted Turner, Jesse Ventura, Roy Welch, and Koichi Yoshizawa. I am not terribly surprised that only Bruns got in. I am slightly surprised it took this long for Bruns to get in. I would think that the guy who you can reasonably give a good chunk of credit for just the mere existence of wrestling in Japan would have been a much easier induction, but I just don't think a lot of people knew about him, frankly. I'm shocked Jesse Ventura didn't get in, honestly. I thought he would have been like a instant induction given his recent work and how people have talked about him. But, I mean...
And by recent work, you mean his Saturday Night's Main Event run?
Well, I mean, I would say the fact that brought him back to the spotlight, and then people were like, yeah, he's not exactly tearing it up right now, but like he really was special back at its peak. I thought that would have carried a little more weight, but I mean, 57.4% on a re-debut is definitely nothing to steer at. And I don't know that I foresaw Gorilla as a plus 50% candidate. I'm not terribly shocked by that, but I thought he would have been closer to like, I don't know, 40. Just like less, acclaim for him, I guess, or more of a divisive kind of reaction to his announcing career.
Adam, who do you vote for, and what do you think about these results?
Yeah, I was very similar to Fred, so I voted for Ted Turner, Jesse Ventura, Morris Siegel, Roy Welch, Grand Wizard, Koichi Yoshizawa, and Bobby Bruns. So I was happy to see Bruns get in. That should free up a vote for me to vote for someone new next year, non-wrestlers. In terms of the results, a little disappointing not to see like Morris Siegel or Roy Welch grow that much.
Yeah.
Kind of staying the same. But I think that's probably attributable to the addition of Jesse and Gorilla and how many votes they took from the region. So I guess it's not completely unexpected. I do think Jesse will finally get in, although you're always a little nervous about saying that because he's gotten like
he has the history.
so many times before.
Yeah.
And Ted Turner's kind of been, in the 50s for a couple of years now, hasn't quite got over the line. But yeah, I think Ted and Jesse both have a pretty good chance. And then I don't know. We'll see if maybe anyone else grows or not. But I think probably those two have to go in, I think, before we'll see anyone else really like start to grow a lot. Although Koichi grew a little bit, and being in Japan makes it a bit different because Rossi and Joe Higuchi are both under 20% still, so they don't really have a whole lot of support. So maybe he can grow a bit, but I don't know. But yeah, we'll see. I think Jesse and Ted are the only ones that I would expect to go in next year.
Yeah, I voted for. I should probably say that first. I voted for. I did the immediate hampering of my own votes just because I didn't vote in historical, so I felt it would be weird to vote for any historical candidates. So I purposely I recounted how many acts were left, kind of got to 13 and said, all right, I'll give myself 4 votes in this region. Let's see how I did. I voted for Bruns, Turner, Yoshizawa, and Jim Johnston actually as well. Yeah, happy to see Bruns getting in. I totally agree with you, Fred, that it is weird that he didn't get in. I wonder if that is in part because obviously being the Japan region and it being a region that has been so strong for the past several years. Now that it's like the first year where everyone was kind of like, Japan's a little weak this year, right? I wonder if that kind of opened up a door for Bruns to get a little more traction in Japan, just because of the usual how those votes get tabulated. Everyone did pretty well. I have like big growth with Bobby Bruns obviously, but even like Tane had a year-over-year growth of 16%. Koshi Yoshizawa year-over-year growth of 15%. Zane Breslov Alpha had year-over-year of 22, granted 11.8 to 14.5, but that's pretty good growth for a guy like him. And just and a good amount of people dropped a little bit in terms of the percentage points as well. But it's an interesting region. It's a little bit disappointing. It sort of does feel like looking at the macro of the entire Hall of Fame, going through this discussion, it is this conversation that we're having over and over again a little bit of each region to a degree has 1 or 2 guys that end up just eating a bunch of votes. In non-wrestlers, Jesse Ventura, Gorilla Monsoon. Japan, you have Zack Sabre Jr., you have Darrell Dixon, Hamada, obviously in Mexico. You just have these regions where people come in, Sabu or Modern, especially for for Sabu and Jesse and Gorilla. They just come onto the ballot and just immediately take up a bunch of votes. And obviously the conversation there is how does that affect the rest of the region? And for a lot of those regions, I mean, look, Japan, no one got in, non-wrestlers only got 1 person in, and everyone else kind of dropped to a certain degree, or didn't move, guys like Morris Siegel who dropped by 0.1%, a Steve Gray amount. So yeah, it's a fascinating region, and I think having more battle royales and in Mexico there's no one in Mexico here, but having more of a battle royale in Modern will have an interesting effect in non-wrestlers. I hope next year. I would imagine then potentially for Ted to get in that way. Historical, it's just a matter of kind of having voters vote because no one obviously got in. So yeah, there's like a weird thing this year of stagnation versus vacuuming up votes across the entire ballot, which is very interesting to point out. Reporters, the person that ranked really high was Ted Turner, ranked 8th. Historians, Bobby Bruns ranked 9th. Active professionals, number 1 with a bullet, Gorilla Monsoon. Retired professionals, the highest was I believe it was Larry. Yes, Larry Maystick was the highest for retired professionals at 3. Mike Tenay, no, sorry, not Mike Tenay. Gorilla Monsoon ranked 4th. Mike Tenay doing for retired professionals would have been fascinating, but Gorilla Monsoon ranked 4th there. Any other big thoughts about non-wrestlers, guys?
Not really.
Let's dig into the pie then that is all the newbies. So obviously Dave every year adds a bunch of new people and returns a bunch of people. I think obviously for a show like this, the ballot, very relevant indeed, because I'm talking about all the new people for a fact next year. I'll break them off into 2 different pies possibly because I'll read them all out. but I will end up breaking them off in two different pies because I think the new people is a fascinating conversation, and the returning people blow my mind to no degree because it doesn't make sense, quite honestly, for the amount of people that are going in. Anyways, so just real quickly reading the new people. Am I stalling time because I don't have the returnees in front of me? Possibly. But for the new people, the people that are brand new to the ballot, first time going onto the ballot, are Gunther, Le Petit Prince, Colosso Colasetti, Kenta, Andreas Lambrakis, Los Espantos, Tam Nakano, and Tibor Zakis. That's my guess. Don't wear me out. And then on the returning group of the Hall of Famers, they are, and they're in front of me, and if anyone else has them, I'd love to hear it. But they are, for a fact, they are going to be Dave Bautista returning to the ballot, Booker T returning to the ballot, Kane returning to the ballot. I know everyone was excited to read all the new case studies that have been done on Kane in the past couple years. Dick Murdoch, we've already kind of spoke about, is returning to the ballot in a weird way. Kyoko, in a way, is also returning to the ballot. So that is everyone. Kenta, Batista, Sasuke as well, returning to the ballot. Kenta, Dave Batista, Great Sasuke, Kane, Tam Nakano, Tibor Sakis, Colosso Colasetti, Andreas Lambrakis, Booker T, Dick Murdoch, Kyoko Inoue, Gunther, Los Espantos, Le Petit Prince. Adam, thoughts on these new and returning people added to the next year's ballot?
Yeah, so in Japan, Kenta being added for the first time, someone that a lot of us have asked for over the past few years. So he's finally getting added. Sasuke coming back. Sasuke hasn't been on since he was only on 1 year and immediately fell off, and that was back in 2004. So that was, he had a whole decade plus of his career after that. So yeah,
it's kind of shocking, like how he was never given a second chance compared to like Seth Rollins is a easy one to kick right now, but some of the others that like have been re-added.
He feels like a potential Sabu-esque figure, where it's like a guy that wasn't on for a while, he then gets popped back on, and I would say, I don't know. I would say would do fairly strongly in historical off the top of my head without really, doing the research to back that up in my head. But in the top of my head, it's like, it feels like he would do really well in terms of like historical significance. And that is something like that Sabu. It's like in the time in 2005, 2006, I think was in Sabu was on the ballot. We don't know the historical significance truly. We haven't necessarily felt it truly, even if it was a decade off. Sasuke, I think, will feel that in a similar way, where a guy that it's more relevant now in hindsight what his significance on wrestling was.
Yeah, Sasuke is really interesting because I think he's much more recognized and appreciated now, probably, than he was 20 years ago. At the same time, I'm not overly optimistic about his chances because, like, he's competing with Hayabusa for one. Yeah. So I actually, as a Hayabusa supporter, I am concerned there could be some split votes there, as opposed to they're both kind of similar. Hayabusa, like, stronger draw, bigger promotion type thing, but obviously Sasuke much longer career, and also had a Japanese political career as well when he wore his mask in official government functions. It's crazy.
Curious business.
Yeah, it's insane if you think about that. Although I don't know, I guess U.S. politics are just
we're definitely far more serious than that.
Are more insane. So I guess a guy wearing a mask in Congress would probably be like the least strange thing that we've gotten over the past.
What did all that happened this past week would make you think? The past half hour, probably.
Anyway, I digress. Fascinating career. Fascinating career. I do wonder, like, if so I think in terms of just like ranking like historical significance, like candidates and influence, like even if you just look in this region, like, there's Hayabusa, there's Kenta as well, obviously very influential. I mean, CM Punk and Bryan Danielson both stole their finishers from him blatantly. So yeah, just influential to his peers, not even to need to wait to the next generation. So And obviously, like, Kent's an amazing worker in his prime. Not as long of a prime as some people hope for. And Sasuke, obviously a really excellent high flyer for a long time. Kenta gets criticized for not being a super strong draw in Noah in terms of following Misawa and Kobashi and some of those guys. And then Sasuke was more started Michinoku Pro and headlined there for a very long time, but obviously a much smaller promotion than even Dragon Gate, like Ultimo Dragon. Well, I guess Ultimo Dragon got in. Dragon Gate hadn't blown up quite as big as it ended up, but Ultimo Dragon obviously credited a lot of influence, and Grand Hamada as well. So we've seen a lot of like influence and historical significance cases recently get in. So we'll see if Sasuke is how people view him. Like, is he maybe not as critical but still strong enough to get in as those guys, or is he kind of somewhere in between? But it'll be really interesting to see how he lines up. There's just this whole region, the Japan region, is just so hard to predict, because similar to modern, it comes down to like, okay, what do you value? Like, I guess one, how many people do you think cross the line for you in terms of being Hall of Famers, and then what do you value the most? Because it's a very like diverse pool of candidates and careers.
You talked a lot about Kenta and Great Sasuke, but I also want to point out Tam Nakano also joining the Japan region. A very also interesting case, because there is a part of me, and maybe look, I'll admit it's probably like a sexist part of me that I don't like, but immediately my brain goes to comparing Tam Nakano and Io Shirai, even though I don't like doing that. But it is a thing. It is a thing where it's like, oh, they're going to have a comparison. They're going to be Joshi fans are going to have to decide or whatever in my head. But at the same time, it's like, look, I think if we're saying anything, and obviously different region, different voter pool, but it could be a similar thing of the Becky Lynch Mercedes thing. It's what do you decide? Tam Nakano obviously is a solid worker, but a way bigger draw in stardom than Io Shirai really kind of ever was. But Io Shirai, obviously a phenomenally great talent in ring worker. And obviously did way better than Mercedes did, but obviously different regions. So I'm interested to see how Tam and Io do matched up. More importantly, how Tam does going on to the ballot. I also wasn't even sure. I was talking about this with Scotty Edwards on our other show of like, would Tam have qualified to be on the ballot? Because I believe she only wrestled for 9 years, I want to say is what it was. It might have been exactly 10. I don't know if it might have been 9 in some months, but I don't know if she stretched it over into 10. I was like, what did I've counted? Because I also don't think she's 35 yet. So it was a whole thing that
I'm sure that there's a exception somewhere for like debuting as or for debuting on the ballot after retiring.
Exactly.
Her first match was July 24th, 2016. So
perfect. Fred, do you have any thoughts on the newbies and the returnees?
Yes, in fact, Ryan, we're going to make podcast history here. For the first time ever, we're going to record a second episode of the show while recording an episode. We're doing podcastception. So what I'd like you to do is I'll count it on 3 and just do your normal intro, introduce me, and then ask me if I think Kane should be inducted. So
perfect.
Ready?
Yeah.
All right, 1, 2, 3.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Ballot, the podcast where the conversation begins. I'm your host, Ryan Knightsey. Today, we have a fascinating topic to discuss. I have 2 great people with me to join, but we're going to go straight to it. Fred, do you think Kane deserves to be in the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame? Are you voting?
Absolutely not. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Ba-dum-bum, ba-dum-bum.
Oh, we already went to credit. Sorry, Adam. Yeah, Kane... and Booker.
What a weird addition. I feel like this is like one of the worst, least deserving additions to the ballot in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Am I out of pocket here? Like, do you think that I'm
for Kane?
Yeah. I know he had
it's tough to top. I mean, it's tough to top Stephanie McMahon. Like, that's always
that one's a bad one.
Number one.
Imagine being like, we need to have a vote on Stephanie. We need to have a conversation.
Yeah, that's always going to be number 1 with the bullet.
Yeah,
like for me.
I'd love to know if anyone voted for her.
Someone must have. Oh, I know. I think Pat LaPrade did. I remember he talked about that.
Buddy.
Yeah, I don't know why. I can't remember why, but I remember not being very convinced by it. Anyway, I actually think Booker T is worse than Kane.
Really?
Ooh, that
Yeah.
honestly,
I mean,
probably a
I
hot
feel like
take.
we're fighting about like, you know,
This
is The Room or Birdemic worse as a movie?
This is the cripple fight from South Park. But yeah, I think Booker T is worse than Kane. That's my hot take on it.
As far as a case, right, and not as a performer.
Yeah. Well, Booker T obviously the better wrestler, but yeah, when I looked at, I'll just say I've mentioned this. People have heard me say this. When I did my pay-per-view analysis a few years ago, like Kane actually came out pretty well because he just headlined so many pay-per-views in the late 90s with, working with Austin, Rock, Undertaker, and their pay-per-view business was insane. So
yeah, it was at that point. Yeah,
it was absolutely insane. So he was the other guy in all those matches and stuff. He wasn't the driver for it, but
the cycle off the bigger stars.
Yeah, and that became very evident then when those guys retired and they still tried to headline with Kane every once in a while and it didn't work. But at least he has that period that's kind of historically significant where he was a positive, at least from a drawing perspective. I've never been particularly high on his work. He's always been kind of a little clumsy and a little slow.
Slow. Oh.
Yeah. But
who are you
awkward.
to neglect the Big Show Kane technical masterclass from that?
I watched that live.
I did too, and it's going to stay in my mind till I die.
I will never forget that. I was like, "What is happening?" I also thought it was fascinating.
I'll have dementia and like forget what my mom looks like, but I'll be like, Kane and Big Show doing drop toe holds on each other.
The best thing is to watch that match like right next to some other one that they had, which I can't remember if it was like a King of the Ring like 98 or 90. I think I remember it was King of the Ring 99 or if it was just a random Raw match. But I just remember they like someone got gorilla press slammed or like slammed to the outside. Like it was an insane spot. Like I think Big Show like press slammed Kane outside.
I was going to say there's no way that Big Show could take that bump without like exploding.
You're right.
They blew up the whale on the beach.
Yeah, I think Kane got press slammed to the outside. Like it was nuts. Anyway, so yeah, Kane's primary career purpose was both tagging and feuding with Undertaker and Big Show on and off for the 15 years.
How can we forget his time as various characters like Isaac Yankem or
Big Diesel?
Or Big Diesel. What was the Christmas one?
Christmas Creature.
Christmas Creature, of course.
Yeah.
I just learned because of Cage Match that not only was he Unabomb in SMW, not the Unabomber, but Unabomb.
Thank you.
One bomb. But he was also apparently at some point Mike Unabomb, which is so funny.
I am Mike Unabomb.
From the New York Unabombs. I'm sorry. I just read that for the first time ever, and I'm just like barely holding it together. That is so ridiculous.
I loved Kane's tag team with X-Pac and the storyline with X-Pac in 1999. It's funny how that completely killed X-Pac's career because he was like this beloved underdog, and then he had this storyline where like him and Kane became friends, and he was like bringing out Kane's humanity, and then he just betrayed Kane to become a lackey in Triple H's heel DX group, and the audience was just like, all right, we're done with you. Like we will never like you or care about you again after that.
He brought out the humanity by teaching him to say suck it with a throat thing. Yes.
Fred, it was 1999. I think we all bonded. There's a lot of male bonding done by just yelling at strangers to suck it.
That was junior high school for me. I mean,
there's a lot of us. Yeah.
There are 2 Kane versus Big Show matches on Cage Matches Match Guide that are over 6, and I think this is a psyop.
It's probably that one I mentioned where Kane gets press slammed to the outside. Nuts.
That would be sick to see.
It's a fascinating addition. Sorry
to segue on this so much, but like the Kane candidacy is just like really not good. I feel like
it feels unwarranted. It feels like a way to keep the voting amounts high. Like even Booker T. I know Adam said that you think Booker T is worse, but even Booker T, it's you said Booker T was better, right? No,
worse.
I was pro Booker T.
You're pro Booker T. Even with like Booker T, it's like what?
Neither of them
I don't understand what we're doing here. Like there was a thought of me of like, when I see like these new additions, like someone like Kane or Booker T, the first thought that goes to my head is like, what has happened in the past several years since the last time they're on ballot to warrant putting them back on to reconsider? Like Dave Bautista, I believe, fell off before he ever returned back as Blue Tista and give me what I want guy. But so it's like, okay, yeah, I can sort of see it if you want to say something, added to his thing. It's like Booker T. The only thing that came to mind was like there was a half second of a fear of like, we're not putting Booker T on as an announcer, are we?
Oh my God.
That's not any change that we're doing, right?
He's got his whole announcing career.
I will say
announcing career to add.
I was like, we're not shucky ducky quack quack. You can't tell me that.
Kane did fall off in 2012, which means we missed corporate Kane, which obviously is going to be a needle mover for all of us.
And his election, we can't,
yes.
Now, what's interesting? Jesse Ventura became governor as Jesse Ventura. Kane had to become mayor, I think, as Glenn Jacobs. So if that doesn't speak to the popularity of Kane versus Jesse Ventura, I don't know what will. It is tougher. Maybe Mike Unabomber would have been better to run as. I don't know. You need a first name here.
But Booker T dropped off in 2006, so maybe there is. I mean, not that like he was exactly setting the world on fire after that, but like. I feel like compared to the two, there's more post last time on, maybe.
When did you go to TNA? Is this now? Are we now
right around there? So 2006.
Yeah. Okay. I retract any statements I've made. 30 seconds.
Well, I think 2006 would have been in his. That would be like when he beat Rey Mysterio.
That would have been right around when he was King Booker.
Yeah.
Again, if that's not a Hall of Fame gimmick, what could be?
So we missed. Yeah, so there was. I mean, King. We didn't even get to see the full King Booker run the last time he was on, or the entire main event Mafia run. So he did a lot.
If he fell off in 2006, this would have been right around King Booker World Heavyweight Championship run. Obviously, and then another year of whatever the fuck, and then TNA 2007 to 2010.
Was that also the year when he got into like a fight with Batista during a commercial shoot?
Yeah, there was something around there.
The two of them got into an actual fight at a commercial shoot. I think it was summer of 2006. So yeah, eventful year for Booker T.
Yeah,
who knew?
Yeah, busy guy.
So we're ultimately evaluating his TNA run and his commentary work for Booker T. In addition to his WWE stuff.
Well, no one would have been,
which wasn't enough.
If David decided instead of adding these two onto the ballot, just being like, look, everyone gets an additional vote in modern US. You don't want to know what the alternative is. Someone will complain and like just Dave will be like, oh, you don't know.
Yeah.
All right. So in Dave's defense, I think some of it, he probably saw Sabu like, okay, obviously very different case for a variety of reasons. But I think like we have just seen like Sabu got added back and instantly got in. He didn't have that much support the last time he was on, over a decade ago. And Gran Hamada as well, like he got added back after falling off because of 1550. And then Monsoon and Ventura just got added back and they're both over 50%. So I can see a logic into looking at like, okay, who are some like major stars or big names in this era that were on the ballot like over a decade ago and they added to their careers in some way since then, but also just maybe because more time has passed, their entire career will be kind of recontextualized since then. I don't think they have the same legacies as Sabu or Gran Hamada, so I'm not high on their prospects. But I can see the logic behind it anyway.
We didn't talk about them all. Fred, I know you have to go, so if you have to go, let us know.
I can go 10 more minutes. So.
We didn't talk about Dave Bautista at all. He also gets added. I think of the new modern returnees, he's the most interesting, obviously, versus Kane and Booker T. There's way more meat on the bone, I would say, for Dave Bautista. He is, this is my struggle with Dave Bautista is he was my guy growing up. And, I obviously liked a bunch of different guys, but, I'm from the Maryland, D.C. area, DMV area. And so hearing, Dave Bautista from Washington, D.C., that immediately attracts me even more as a kid in my dumb little kid brain. So there is this thing of like, oh, crap, now I have to fight through nostalgia for Dave Bautista.
Oh, yeah.
And assess his case without being nostalgic for him. And I'm not a very nostalgic guy, but weirdly enough, Dave Bautista is breaking through that. So I'm gonna have to fight that off here. Any thoughts on Dave? Big, as we call him on Ring Post Radio, Biggest Dave. Any thoughts on Dave Bautista?
I think he's definitely ballot worthy. I think he could do.
I have no problem with this.
He could do relatively well. I don't think he's going to get in just because the competition's so stiff. But
there's room for a Dave Bautista on the ballot. I think.
Yeah, it's I think he'll end up probably in like the 20 to 30% range, probably similar to Goldberg, who I think they're kind of similar candidates. Goldberg I think peaked a little bit higher, but Bautista might have a little bit more. He was a better performer all around and might have a little bit more longevity. Also, so it's interesting to see compare all these guys. But I'll be digging into him a bit for next year to prep. So yeah, look forward to breaking him down and comparing him to some of the other candidates in the region.
Yeah, very excited to talk Dave Bautista. And then obviously, without doing any research, I'm assuming you guys are also very jazzed about Tibor, Colasetti, Lambrakis, Los Espantos, and Petit Prince. I assume you all are very up on those guys.
I'm far more willing to believe that those guys have interesting stories worthy of consideration than the three gentlemen we just discussed. So
I think that's
by like a ridiculous margin. Like we got like Kane, who's considered the smartest guy in the locker room because he saw a book once, versus like, God, I mean, if you read like what Paolo, the auto induction from this year, whose name I've
Raul Paoli.
Raul Paoli. Like I just glanced through his bio, and it's like this guy is the most interesting man to have ever existed. I'm going to bet money that like these other guys are like, if nothing else, at least led super interesting lives. So we got like Booker T makes weird noises on NXT.
I'm always on whenever I try to update my tracking spreadsheet that lists like people's ages when they became eligible for the ballot. Some of these lesser known candidates in rest of the world, it's an adventure just to find out when they were born, especially because a lot of them were born like in the early 20th century. So it's hard to even get an exact date. Some of them I just have to estimate. But it's it'll be interesting. I always enjoy hearing about them and learning about like wrestling for the rest of the world. I just can't vote in it. But because I don't have the full context and I don't know how to compare these people.
I am very excited because obviously all of those people I just talked about are all people that are brand new on the ballot. So these are all people we're discussing next year, this season on the show. And so I'm very excited to get into all of them. I've been watching my Colasetti tapes to see how he is as a worker. And I believe my wife put it best where he wrestles like a 70s cartoon character in the way he moves and acts. It's hard to convey this over.
Does he do it like this kind of like the queens of?
He walks over and stalks his opponent like as stiff as can be, arms out and like hunched over, like he's some sort of goblin creature. You have to watch this, man. I can't put it. It's just like he wrestles like a cartoon villain. He also has like the pointed goatee mustache thing that really accentuates the cartoon villainy.
Oh, he's from the evil mirror universe.
Exactly. Yes, he is a evil mirror person that looks like the stiffest wrestler I've ever seen in my life, which doesn't help because he's wrestling in Mexico, obviously. And when I see him versus very fluid lucha libre action, I'm like, oh my God, this guy sticks out like a sore thumb. But I'm sure there's other stuff to his case that warrants induction. But right now, I'm watching my Colasetti tapes. I'm like, I don't know what about this guy. My wife and I watching him like, what is he doing? What is all of it? It's so over exaggerated too. It's a very, very wild person, but still excited to talk about all that. So we'll figure that out.
I'd like to read the last paragraph of Tibor Shakic's. I'm gonna take that stab at his surname. Pro wrestling fandom page, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Towards the end of his career, he was used further and further down the card, and in matches against such characters as the quote belly butt brigade end quote, because he lacked the exposure of the likes of McManus, Nagasaki, etc., and promoters didn't know how to use his skills effectively. He died in 1981, his star tarnished, but still shining in the eye of those who knew in his glory days. That's a sick right there in a parentheses if I was being a mean editor. But yeah, big feud with the belly bug brigade that we're going to have to dig into, I guess, if we're voting in this region.
Belly? Did you say belly bug or belly butt?
Belly butt.
There's no
link. There's no link on this wiki to belly butt brigade, which is a shame. I'm now going to search this and probably find some great pornography. Google AI wants to tell me that it most commonly refers to a book by Mimi Tate titled The Belly Button Brigade, which provides religious guidance on women's dress.
Oh, well, that's not as...
Maybe this was a 1970s or 60s, like, right to censor.
Yeah, it sounds like you're giving Toni Storm material for her inevitable heel turn eventually.
Well, I'm very excited to dive into all these guys. Obviously, a lot of them international, a lot of them, Japan with Kenta and Spain. Mexico. Whoops, Los Espantos. Gunther, I already talked about. I'm fascinated to see how he will do next year as well, and I'm excited to dive into him. And yeah, look, there's 8 new people. I said this to Adam. There's 8 new people. The show typically talks about only the newbies. So it gets me all the way to August, and Dave put out the ballot in September. So technically I don't need to do another one, but guys, there's always room for bonus episodes. You guys talked about FTR and Drew McIntyre, the 2 people that fell off. It feels like perfect father
God.
for you guys to come on and talk about Kane and Booker T. So get ready for bonus episodes.
You know what? I would not be shocked if they end up at like 13%.
More than Seth Rollins?
Yes.
Seth Rollins is not moving.
No, Seth Rollins is going to be settled like Trish Stratus, just like buried in the earth.
Well, thank you guys both very much for coming on to the ballot and talking about the results here. I think a fascinating display of the voting body and who they voted for to go in, but also these vacuuming up, stagnation, all this stuff that's happening. I'm glad we discussed it. I'm glad we broke it all down. Thank you guys very much for coming on. I introed Fred first, so I'll outro Adam first. Adam, give us some plugs, give us some things. Here's another one. Give us some plugs, but also give us a case or a couple cases that you're very excited to dive into for next year.
I'm most excited to dig into Kane for this show. It's going to be amazing.
Hellfire and brimstone. It's a bad argument,
and you all better listen. No, because we're gonna recap Kane's career, and let me tell you, there are some things to recap about Kane's career.
Events definitely occurred.
Any plugs? Any plugs, Adam?
No, seriously, just that. Look forward to that at some point.
Perfect. Just listen to the future bonus episode of Adam talking about Kane's Hall of Fame case.
We can get into Booker T at the same time, and Batista if you want to have some positivity with it. But it'll be fun.
No positivity. Don't tarnish this.
I think I said it to somebody before, but I might have said it to you, Adam, where it's like, look, to be honest, some of these episodes with some bad candidates like Kane and Booker T, they're also just ways to kind of just talk about the ballot a little bit. And we're 100% going to diverge about something else. Well, I say that, but Adam is passionate to discuss Kane. So I think we're going to be a full hour.
Nothing else. Locked in.
I want to run down all of your favorite Kane angles ranked, if you don't mind, before that episode.
The podcast equivalent of raw dogging a flight.
Look, sometimes when we're discussing this, like obviously we all want to learn more. We enjoy a lot of different perspectives about things, but sometimes it can get a little dry. Me talking about Kane will not be boring. I can promise you that.
I can't
There's
wait.
There's a lot of things that happened that need to be discussed.
Fred, any plugs? And are you ready to discuss Booker T? I guess.
Shucky ducky quack quack. He will not be appearing in my top 5, my MySpace Fave 5 for this fact.
We get to discuss his TNA career, so we get to discuss him beating up someone while commentating on a microphone. I mean,
that's always a funny gimmick. I mean, I always pop for that. I will admit to that. People are like, "Oh, it's like an in-ring promo during a match." I'm like, look, if he's just doing the I'm beating someone up while also trash talking them directly into a microphone, I pop. I'm sorry. I'm a simple man with simple taste. I co-host the Good, the Bad, and the Hungy with Tyler Fortis, ostensibly weekly. Not very much so much currently, but hey. That's it, basically. I occasionally write stuff for Voices of Wrestling. I'm trying to do something with a Patreon. I have not succeeded at that so far, but I do have an idea that I want to start soon, where I just do weekly office hours while working on projects when I'm able. Don't sign up for it yet because I haven't started, so don't give me money for nothing yet. I am very interested to see, there's always the, I'd like to start with Rest of the World thought in my head, and then I'm like, I do not have enough time to start with Rest of the World, because I feel like that'd just be such a tremendous thing. So I am going to try to, buckle down and really do some, finish up my June Byers research and write a nice article, because, I mean, it's the perfect time. 15 for 50 is kicked in with her, so we gotta shit or get off the pot with her, ostensibly. Or maybe she'll just hang out at 55% for the rest of our, I mean, hypothetically, there's no end to that. So she could give Trish Stratus something to aim for. But I think that she's got a pretty good case, and I do hope people give her a real honest look. Failing all that, I mean, yeah, that's about it.
You're working on your FSM stuff in between busy work life.
Yeah, I am. I'm currently at 975 matches watched for this year, which is not enough. I have hundreds more bolded that I will probably not get to. I make Mike Spears' life hell because I ask him for monthly recommendations on Dragon Gate, and then he does a lot of work to get them to me, and then I do not watch them because I am trying to get caught up on so many other things right now. Yeah, and then I don't tell him this, so he'll only find out if he listens to 2 hours and 10 minutes of me babbling on a podcast. The anti-draw. It's I always enjoy doing FSM 50. I think it's a great way to try to figure out, if you were to actually rank who the best in-ring performers in a year were, try to do that, and it's an excuse to watch a lot of great wrestling. So. And sometimes give 4 stars to an Ethan Page Mustafa Ali NXT match that you did not expect to like that much and felt kind of dirty after saying it out loud. But it's true, I did actually like that match a fair bit.
Yeah, I believe if I recall correctly, and I was somewhere else in the room when you were doing this, but I believe you watched that match, you went to your worksheet, you put 4 stars on it, and then pulled out a cigarette afterwards. You need a cigarette break after giving it a 4-star match.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys both for coming on to the show. This is, we're officially closing up shop on the 2025 season. I have exciting ideas in store, I guess, for 2026, various plans and machinations at my disposal that I plan to do for next year. Obviously, we're going to be talking about Gunther, Petit Prince, Colasetti, Kenta, Lambrakis, Espantos, Tamicano, and Tibor. But obviously, I would love to do more bonus episodes talking about the return vote or the return people. But obviously, those are if we can as well. And and I'm working on in hopes of doing some sort of not necessarily like a call-in show, but sort of like a voicemail thing. So be on the lookout for that, because I did really like the Sabu episode we put together this year, obviously with outstanding circumstances with his passing, but I really like having a lot of quick hitter thoughts on someone's career, and maybe there's something there to it. So be on the lookout for that. Have I already gotten a Google Voice phone number installed? I have. So be on the lookout for that.
That could be your second Kane episode. After all, we did just do the first one. So,
well, I assume there's more people that have takes on Kane than Adam Berger. So there has to be a bonus voicemail episode.
3 episodes for Kane. We're gonna just put mine out that we recorded where I was the guest and pushed Adam off to the side. Then we'll have the Adam like full death one, and then we'll have the call-in one.
Well, we do the bonus episode of all the voicemails of people
The
leaving.
Caniacs demand it.
And then we have the Canaanites.
Thank
We
you.
then bring Adam back on to react to all the voicemails, and then just sort of do that infinitum.
So yeah, 5 episodes now.
I am actually interested in what people's favorite memories of Kane would be, because there's. He was just in so much bizarre stuff. It's
he did not have a boring career. We could definitely say that much.
Yeah,
like I said,
career, but
like I said, things happened. A lot of things happened.
Perfect. Well, then be on the lookout for that. Should I give out the number? I have it already prepped up. I don't think I have machinations yet, but I don't know if I should give out the number yet. But if not, I'll give it out in December, probably, or the beginning of January. There may be an episode. There was a season 1 of this. Adam knows this, of this show. And it's technically on a Patreon, even though it's free on the Patreon, the Count Out Podcasting Wrestling Network Patreon, even though it's all free audio now. I might release some episodes onto the free feed, so look out for that probably in December. It's just a matter of what episodes, because I believe the only person that is now on the ballot that there was an episode about is Zack Sabre Jr., and that was the first one, so it's a rough listen, probably. That's it. I think that's everything. Plug wise and announcements wise. We'll be back for sure in January discussing somebody. Who it is. It could just be Kane. We already have a willing participant. I don't know. Is it ominous to start our season with that? Probably. So we'll figure that out.
ominous, just like the organ at the beginning of his theme.
Perfect. And 10 more comedy points, Fred. And for that, I guess we'll close up shop and say goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much for an incredible season. Until then, we'll catch you on the flip. Goodbye, everybody.
Hey, have you guys heard of the new show on the Count Out Network, the Ichiban Sweetcast?
It's the brand new New Japan Pro Wrestling podcast starring the International Wrestling Grand Prix. That's me, your good friend Curtis Spears.
And me, your bad friend Rafe Hewson. And we're here to talk about everything New Japan Pro Wrestling, reacting to everything, getting worked up, getting very happy, sometimes crying. Kind of like something else we used to do, right?
Oh, yeah. That was the old Okada Shorts podcast, right?
Ah, that's right. And if you love that show, you're going to love this show because it's exactly the same show.
Yeah, we just had to change the name.
Yeah, we did. But you can check it everywhere on a social media handle that we haven't made yet.
Yeah, we're really new to this. So what you can do is search on your favorite podcast catcher of choice. Look for the Ichiban Sweetcast.
Sweetcast, Ichiban.
This has been a Count Out Podcast.